Good evening and welcome to Week 7 of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. You're joining us on the English broadcast tonight. It is day 1 of Week 7. I'm Kevin Averwalker. With me tonight is Matt Pixie Carroll. And we got two of, I would say, kind of the hottest matches coming up this weekend.
Yeah, like today is Flash Wolves Day, right?
Yeah.
This day is all about the Wolves, man. Like, so what? First up we got them versus AHQ, and then following that is Matchy. Like, these are two huge rematches for Flash Wolves.
And we got the first opponents coming up for Flash Wolves on screen. It is going to be AHQ Esports Club, kind of getting in there. And as you said, it is a revenge match for them because currently AHQ sit at the top of the leaderboard. They're number 1. They've beaten Blank. Flash Wolves beat Blank already, but AHQ came in even stronger. They sent a really strong message, and it's time for Flash Wolves to maybe send one back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as it is, right, if you're Flash Wolves, you are currently sitting bottom of that top 3. As much as that's not like a hugely in contention position, you don't want to take any more losses than you need to, especially when a win here has you tied with Blank. It leaves you just a lot more secure, to be honest.
And actually, if you take a look at this, Flash Wolves recently did a sort of a promotional thing where, almost like a movie poster, they got the guns out, kind of literally got the posters in there. This is their coach, Ray. This is coach Chongi.
我是中继，我在团队里的工作就是开坦克，保护好我的队友。
He says, I'm the main tank, my job is to protect the team.
Hello， 我是 K-Momo， 其实我也是开坦克的，可是我没办法控制方向盘，因为我是副将。
He says, I'm also the tank, but I'm actually the flex player as well, so I pick up a couple of other roles.
步兵来了，我是31，只要有我在，你们就放心的冲吧。
He says, I'm the support, and as long as I'm here, you can be safe.
真来了，我是新客，队友受伤，我会治好他们。
He says, I'm also a support. If you're injured, I'll be there to heal you.
当我吃了培根之后，我的任务达成率将达到87%。Bacon Jack 就是我。
I love the guy coming out. That's Bacon Jack as well. Of course, the last player is
我的
Zonda.
人生充满了刺激与危险，我想成为最完美的射手，也帮助我的团队毁灭所有敌人。我是龙打。
He says he's going to take down all enemies and support his team as well for Flash Wolves.
There you go, man. Pretty cool, eh? Like,
It is very different.
I always love like actually getting a bit of insight. I mean, as much as that's like a promotional thing they've done, it's always cool to
Yeah.
get a bit more out of the players, like a bit of the personality even.
We're just going to check this out really quickly as well as the coaches have a couple of messages as well as they're talking to each other.
其实聊天室很多朋友常说我们两队谁大于谁，那其实我们两队并没有谁大于谁，我们只想要做的就是今天永远大于昨天的自己。那希望今天可以带来精彩比赛，谢谢。
好，闪电狼。
我想讲的话也是一样的，就是不管任何的赛事，就是我们一定会尽全力，然后打出精彩比赛给大家看。对，就这样，谢谢。
So Coach Nitor from the AHQ side basically said, a lot of people discuss sort of the power between the two teams. They compare us a lot and they say, look, there is a rivalry, but for me, it's about putting up a really good performance. It's less so about, you know, who's better as a team, and he's kind of just wants both teams to really put it out there to have a good show tonight. And Coach Jay on the other side is kind of repeating the same thing. He's really agreeing with that and saying, look, it is about just putting on the best possible performance from either side, from both sides tonight.
I guarantee it's going to be a good show as well. But we also have to be frank, right? AHQ do have to be the favorite of these two right now, which is actually the opposite of what we had right at the top, right? This was the opening match actually of the tournament as a whole, and Flash Wolves took it. And over time, that relative power level has shifted and shifted and shifted. And then like last week, AHQ getting a blowout against Blank, even though Flash Wolves had a 3-0 themselves, it was a much tighter one, it was a much closer one. That has kind of been the final marker. I feel that, you know, AHQ have surpassed Flash Wolves now. And we talk about this tournament being a lot of burden on the support staff. What a lot of that says is that, you know, this improvement has come out of the support staff, but AHQ have been the one team that I think is the most unique in that they have also had a massive amount of player improvement in that time as well. And you almost look at the two and go, look, this feels like the team with the biggest ceiling. And this is without a doubt the matchup that proves that. And if Flash Wolves do turn it around in this one, it starts an arms race.
And it does feel like a bit of an arms race because both teams are out there to prove it to themselves and also to their rivals. These are the two rival Taiwanese teams, that they are also the better team at the end of the day. So when HQ first came up with the 3-2 win against Blank, that sent a message, that sort of sent a ripple across the entire OPC. First team to beat Blank, Flash Wolves came in and said, we're going to do it better. They did. Yeah. They 3-0, but it was a rather close one. AHQ looked at that and they said, you know what? we can even do better than that. We have to do better than that, and we're going to be able to show it. They came in 3-0 again, but this time looked even more comfortably than Flash Wolves. So, yeah, when you say arms race, it is exactly what it feels like, and this is kind of almost where it culminates, at least for the third round robin.
Yeah, and the thing as well, the thing to note about that, most importantly of all, I feel, is that's not actually something that's happened over the course of the whole tournament. That specific chain of events has happened within the last 2 to 3 weeks. So that is a significant change in a short amount of time. Flash Wolves, I feel, have had a much more steady upward trajectory, as have Blank. Arguably, Flash Wolves 1 has been sharper, they've passed them, but AHQ, I feel like they've kind of gone like that in this time, and that's been, I feel, the more significant thing. And also, if I'm not mistaken, when Matchy kind of came out the gate swinging a couple of weeks ago, took down Flash Wolves, and then had a much rougher run against AHQ immediately after that. So that was kind of our early glimpse, I suppose, at what is now unfolded, and this is either going to put a stamp on it and mail it out, say Flash Wolves are the better of the two, or this is going to reopen the story. This is going to turn a new chapter, and we're going to go, well, who even is it now? Because Flash Wolves have taken a win here. We thought it was AHQ.
And as far as story goes, I think tonight is the best in terms of story. If anyone's wondering why there's so much Flash Wolves love going on today, it is their home day, and a home day means they get to play on the home side for all of their matches, which is going to be really difficult for the other two teams trying to get back in there. We're actually going to take, hopefully we can bring up the standings as well to really show where the state of the tournament is. We have AHQ right at the top of the leaderboard. We've already said that, had a fantastic week in round robin number 2, 7-0. The only other team to do that other than Blank so far in the entire tournament to completely clean out a round robin 100% win rate. And then you got Blank, the team that's 7-0 in the first round robin at 12-3. And of course, Flash Wolves on the home day today, doing a bit of catch-up and doing a little bit of revenge as well.
Also, I kind of want to note, I suppose there are two things to note here. The first is, of course, with AHQ having already now beaten Blank at the top of this round robin and now coming up against Flash Wolves, if they win today, they are well on track to have a second undefeated round robin, which would be phenomenal. The other thing to kind of look at it from the other perspective, Flash Wolves, right? Picking up a win would be great. You tie with Blank, etc., all the things we've been talking about. But the harsher thing I feel is picking up a loss puts them very much within striking distance of Matchy, who they then have to play immediately afterwards. And if they then lose that, there are only 2 games that separate those 2 teams.
And you got a little bit of a glimpse there of the 2 teams' lineups, their rosters. I don't think anything is realistically going to change today. And you've got on your screen currently Jongi, who is the main tank player. And I do want to speak individually about some of these players as well, because they are some of the top tier talent in the OPC and also in Taiwan, and I would like to think potentially even the world. So this is the entire Flash Wolves lineup once again. You got on your screens. The first player we did see was Jongi, who, when they did beat Blank, I want to say his Winston right now is going to be my favorite in the OPC.
Yeah, I mean, every team has to have some amount of reliance of Winston right now, not just because Dive is popular, but also when teams are running this triple DPS, they're not running it with a Reinhardt. They are running it with a Winston.
Yeah.
There are a lot of reasons behind that. I'm not going to touch on that now, because of course the important thing is the teams with the better Winstons naturally are performing better. And even though we highlighted a couple of weeks ago Flash Wolves struggling to adapt to triple DPS, that issue is in the DPS side of things. They have absolutely no problems on the tank front, and that is entirely carried by Jongi. And even when Reinhardt metas do exist, there was, at the very start of this tournament, a bit more of a Reinhardt-centric thing going on in certain comps. Jongi was also holding down the fort in that. They have a reliable player in him.
Absolutely. And on the other side as well, I think I would like to be able to say that AHQ are the less flexible team of the 2 that we're going to see tonight in terms of Flash Wolves versus AHQ. Flash Wolves, they've been more successful at triple DPS. Yeah, they've tripped up a little bit. They've had some problems there. But they're getting to the stage where they find out like what is getting more comfortable. K-Momo on the Genji is a lot more comfortable than him trying to play Soldier or anything else. Whereas AHQ, it's not that they are struggling to run triple DPS. They just straight up can't. They cannot. It's not possible because Lazy Titan does not play a DPS character. He plays the off tanks. He might even play the main tanks. He's got a Zarya in there, and that's about as close as he gets to triple DPS.
And I suppose that's the big thing. I mean, if we talk about support staff versus support staff, right? Flash Wolves, they had hiccups first time they brought out triple DPS, and I believe that was, if I'm not mistaken, against Blank themselves.
No,
No, it was against AHQ.
Yes, it was.
It was actually against AHQ. Yeah, the last time.
That's
these
what
two
put
teams
them on
met,
their 2 losses.
Yeah,
initially.
exactly. So that was against AHQ, and like you said, we identified some issues, and they have addressed those issues, and they've fixed a lot of the mistakes. I still don't think they are the strongest triple DPS team in this tournament. I don't even know if they're the second strongest, to be completely frank with you, but they have actually fixed that mistake. They can play it adequately, whereas AHQ can play it passably at best. As far as strictly speaking, playing triple DPS, HQ are middle of the pack. What they have done instead is they've moved on to more comfortable team comps. They're actually one of the few right now that are pulling out triple tank and executing it very well. That was a lot of what Blank struggled with against AHQ in their most recent series.
Absolutely.
And when you look at that side of things, you look at a team that can get something wrong and then go away and fix it. And then you look at a team that can't, so they do something else and they do it really well. Well, one of those is going to work in the short term, that's HQ, and the other you can't help but feel suits you better for the long term.
I want to say for AHQ, they're the kind of team that to me is, they, in terms of adaptability and the sort of variety, this horizontal scope of things of what they can achieve, I think they're limited. I think they're limited into doing very specific things, but what they can do, they do extremely well. So they are one of the teams that they can do 2-2-2, but realistically, their triple tank has been pretty good specifically against Blank. Now, Blank have a also specific weakness to that particular composition currently because, you know, they lack the practice against triple tank. They've said that themselves.
They were very upfront actually in saying leading up to that series, they had expressly played against, even when playing Flashals, they played against a ton of dive, and then on the day, AHQ
and this is the
pull
other
out triple tank.
We actually, first map was revealed so far, that's Flashwall's pick. It is
Oasis.
Oasis.
Yeah, it's the other Essis. Yeah. I knew it was Oasis too. It was like on our screen, and words were in the wrong way.
You're just going from the Mediterranean and flying your way all the way to the UAE.
It's actually not far.
It's not too far, I don't think. But so we are returning to Oasis for a little bit as well. I was going to finish up the AHQ comment by essentially saying, I don't know if they'll still bring the triple DPS, the triple tank against Flashwalls in particular, just because that is something that they may have specially prepared for Blank. But against Flashwolves who, you know, they're running more of it. Flashwolves are likely going to be sticking to 2-2-2 here unless they've absolutely perfected their triple DPS.
The only thing is, just by the way, you can also guarantee, right, that in the week since the Blank series, everyone, not just Flashwolves, but everyone is going to have gone away and looked at how AHQ plays this triple tank, because no one wants to be 3-0'd by AHQ.
Yeah.
Put simply.
And definitely not Flashwolves today, is that, you know, Flashwolves are looking for a win here today. It is their map pick. They did pick Oasis. You know, home side means they get maps 1, 3, and 5, and the corresponding starting sides on there as well. So the interesting thing about Oasis is we saw a bit of this. We saw a decent amount, not a crazy amount, but a decent amount in the first round robin. In the second round robin, it kind of just disappeared. Now we're back in here.
Well, it turned out the Oasis was a mirage.
Sort of still in the early stages, I would say, of round robin 3. It's still just, you know, setting the scene.
We're only on the second day of it.
Yeah, exactly. So Oasis now coming back into the fold is interesting, specifically from a Flashwolves picking perspective.
And again, if we talk about, you know, Flashwolves will have gone away and prepared specifically for this matchup. I mean, not just because there is a lot riding on it, but when you know you're going to be playing the current front runner in the tournament, you're always going to put in that little bit of extra preparation compared to some of your other matches that week. There is something going on behind this pick. I'm not entirely sure what it is.
It's not an accident.
It's definitely not an accident, exactly. And it's also not, look, we're just going to go on to, you know, we're not going to go, like, let's do Lee Jung, let's do Nepal. They're clearly not doing the go-tos for a specific reason. And maybe what happened there was Oasis fell out of the picture because everyone just wanted level playing fields. I would say this is a sign that teams are willing to explore the territory. They don't just want to have these, like, straight up showdowns, if you will, on these level playing fields. Teams are going to go for every single advantage they can get. And this is the time to start revealing strategies you may have on these less picked maps.
And Flashwolves definitely don't want to go into Nepal territory, which
that is AHQ.
Which very much is one of AHQ's top picks. They pretty much always go for Nepal. I would even go on to believe that if it was AHQ's pick today, there's a very high possibility of them going to Nepal as well. But Flashwolves, again, because it is their home day, they've prepared for, you know, I would say at least 3 maps, Oasis being specifically one of them. And I do like that the fact that they didn't go to Lijiang or Nepal we've discussed, but go to Lijiang as well is another common map.
I think Lijiang specifically,
that teams have practiced and played a lot in the OPC. So going out there, and you've only got Oasis and Ilios left, and they picked Oasis as that final map, they may be expecting here AHQ potentially underprepared.
Yeah, but potentially. And I suppose the other thing as well, I mean, if you're looking down the barrel of this one and you go, well, we don't want to do Li Zhang, for the reasons I kind of just stated. Yeah. We don't want to do Nepal because that's their map. Then your options left are Ilios and Oasis. And Ilios, AHQ recently beat Fireball on it. Now, much as Fireball are much further down in the standings, Ilios has kind of been considered Fireball's map. That is the one place they've been able to even consistently upset some of these higher up teams in this tournament. So then AHQ have kind of claimed that off them in a way. Maybe it's even just purely driven by that Flashwell's going, well, this is our one option left where maybe we're just not at a disadvantage. It's hard to say, but we're going to find out.
Yeah, match has started already. A little bit of action directly onto Zonda, getting taken down straight away.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate for Flash Wolves, and already the pressure being put on. Bacon Jack, normally in these situations, he's the one who kind of puts on the gas and starts to turn it around, but no such luck just yet.
And Bacon Jack's been, again, one of the top, if not the current top Tracer player in the entire OPC. It is a very early take from AHQ, which, you know, obviously came off the back of getting Zonda down super early. Now, AHQ's still very much in the fight. Sorry, for Flash Wolves, they're actually still very much in the fight.
Yeah, if anything, that pick came too early before the point had actually opened, and now here we go, Bacon Jack starting to put on the pressure, and Zonda actually in a good position despite the respawn coming in. So his team has opened him up to actually let him sit onto this point, and now they're the ones putting on the pressure, picking off Calman again now. They're kind of keeping it a bit of a numbers advantage on this point, and the longer they can sustain that for, the better off they are at turning this one around. The pulse bomb, good but not quite connecting. K-Momo out of the mech means that AHQ have a window. A lot of teams actually, all their ultimates kind of coming out very quick. This is a very hard early commit. Neither team is willing to just give a little less, give the point over, and then come back swinging afterwards. They really want to go all out on this first one, and it's starting to slip the way of AHQ.
And it is an important first one because neither team has really capped yet. So for Flash Wolves, if they were behind, if HQ had already capped, I don't think they'd be throwing ultimates as heavily as they are, but to fight for the first cap, it is going. Both teams absolutely throwing everything out there. Slowly but surely, Flash Wolves kind of coming out ahead. 3 kills from Jongi in particular, but he goes down himself.
Yeah, but the only thing is AHQ were the ones with the members on the point for the longer time, so even now, Flash Wolves, they're going to take so long to cap that AHQ should be able to regroup, and now Dizzy picking off Zonda means they have a lot more of a window to do that. They're just both protracting this opening skirmish. Oh, Pulse Bomb going out into a self-destructing mech. Oh dear, misstep by Cowman, and that's going to swing it the way of Flash Wolves.
Yeah, finally.
That wasn't even Flash Wolves' good play, that was just a mistake by AHQ.
It was kind of a mistake as well. I think Cowman is still, I would say, not quite up to par. Tracer specifically not against Bacon Jack, and that's kind of where I wanted to lead into as well. You know, we're saying, look, if I'm mentioning Bacon Jack as one of the best Tracers in the OPC, I'm not too sure Cowman really gets up to that level just yet. Not quite.
No, absolutely. And also, I mean, Bacon Jack has, I kind of touched on it, the Bacon Jack effect, where suddenly he'll just get 3 or 4 kills. And it's not like by magic. He's just a good player. He does the setup for it. But it's so consistent that Flash Wolves can semi-rely on it, right? Whereas I don't think the same is true of HQ. I don't think it's a good thing to rely on, like, oh, we lost this fight, but this guy will just carry us. That's not how you should play. But certainly being able to do that sometimes, being able to win fights off that, sometimes it's just that extra 10% to get you over the line where other teams wouldn't.
And also, interestingly enough, for AHQ, Eddie Boss is back into the fray, taking over for teammate Kerry's on that secondary support role, or maybe even primary support role, on the Annas and Yada sort of role. So, be interesting to see how he performs for the rest of the night as well as we get back into the game. Pause is over.
Yeah, over indeed. And yeah, interesting. Like I said, I kind of noted before, like that loss, I feel came down to AHQ making a slip up. Specifically Cowman, it wasn't just going into the self-destruct, it was also throwing the pulse bomb at it. Could have otherwise swung the numbers in their favor, but now AHQ a little bit more collected, forcing this sound barrier already out of Flash Wolves, but committing their own transcendence. And that's going to be the pick onto Cowman. That's the Bacon Jack effect in action. Dizzy opening up on this high ground, but he's not really finding much, and now there's a dive right on top of him, and already Flash Wolves, they kind of have this one on lockdown. He's going to pick Jongi, now going to wheel around to try and get onto the low ground here, and they are starting to break through this one. Jongi not quite dealing with Dizzy adequately, and now he's kind of left to wreak havoc on the rest of the point. Oh, that self-destruct just secures it. Once again, though, back in favor of Flash Wolves.
This is super, I want to say it's fairly even because both teams are getting roughly the same amount of kills. The problem for AHQ is it is still Flash Wolves' territory. They have control of the point. They are still racking up progress, and until they can actually get some sort of a lead here, AHQ are bleeding a lot of time away because they are also committing ultimates.
Exactly, even as a loss for AHQ. And like you said, they're also bleeding ultimates. They are essentially giving away potential resources they could use to come back swinging and go for a full team wipe. I feel like, if anything, instead of just trading even, they maybe should have just backed off at one point. It's really hard to have that discipline when you get a kill. You're like, okay, we could keep going. But that is often your best option so that you can come back swinging.
And AHQ, they're going to have to come back swinging specifically on Eric N with the Primal Rage because that's kind of all they got to work with.
Well,
they might get another. They might actually get another attack visor and Dizzy as well. The opening kill on Camaro does give them a little bit of time, but they need to be able to act right now because overtime's in effect.
Yeah, they're already kind of forced onto this point, so maybe even didn't get the setup time they wanted. Erican trying to get something with this ultimate running, but he doesn't get much. Neither does the self-destruct from Lazy Titan. They're finally starting to close them out as Erican at last closes on Sinclair, but they haven't dealt with Zonda. They haven't dealt with the DPS, and Bacon Jack is still running around this fight wreaking absolute havoc. Jongi, meanwhile, is putting on all this pressure. They're struggling. They're even in this final fight now. They've got a transcendence that they need to commit to this, but Eddie Boss is hurrying his way to the point. Eric and Cutter putting the team on his back for a moment. It's buying them time to at least get the team here, and they should get a cap off of that, but that was dicey.
It was really tough because Dizzy actually ended up dying with Tac Visor, and him dying with Tac Visor, I felt like they really needed to get them back in the fight. Eric M pulled all the way, and I kind of mentioned, hey, Eric M probably needs to be able to do quite a bit. He ended up doing that and more, specifically covering for Dizzy's death. They have to rely so much on Dizzy, and can he get that kill? He does not, in fact.
Not quite, not quite. Very sneaky. Nearly had it, actually. That would have been clever, if nothing else, but I mean, you don't want to rely on just like laying a trap and having someone happen to walk into it.
So the good news is for AHQ, they ended up not having to commit too many ultimates back into for the retake. Erican again, he pulled the majority of the weight to be able to get his team in there. They have quite a decent amount of ults to be able to work with now, but it is still coming up from 0% up against a 99. They got to be able to really, in terms of endurance, be able to ration their ults properly and play the economy perfectly.
Speaking of, Dizzy already kind of taken out as he started off that ultimate. That already swings at Flashful's favor, and Bacon Jack committing his down. He's going to secure the Diva as well. They're looking in really good shape already. That was so little commitment out of Flashfuls for, the retake, and with enough to kind of hold down the fort here with that self-destruct.
You actually see on the AHQ side, they used all the ultimates in the last ensuing fight as well, including Take Visor from Dizzy. Doesn't look like it got enough. The final defense out of Flashfuls will just be enough to secure it, and I want to say Flashfuls, aside from the opening skirmish where it kind of looked like it was 50-50 as soon as Flash Wolves took control, I've used this many times, but they never lost control pretty much ever again. Even when HQ got the retaken, it was kind of just temporary. It was like, we'll give it to you for now, but it won't be yours for long.
And it was a retake that happened because Jongi got 3 kills. But sorry, not Jongi, other way around. Erican, Erican kind of got 3 kills. I wouldn't say they were out of nowhere, but he picked up 3 kills, and maybe that was just Flashfulls making a bit of a positional slip up to or be exposed to the Winston, but you're right, they were still in control. They were still in the lead in terms of the point itself and in terms of the ultimate economy.
Yeah, it felt like AHQ should have committed more to be able to win that. Losing Dizzy early without using Tac Visor, not getting many pickups anywhere else. But Erican being able to sort of bring it back for his team. AHQ need a little bit more if they want to secure this next one.
Yeah,
Flash was definitely looking on form.
Yeah. Neither team wants it to go the same way as before because before was indecisive. Both teams want to get something a little bit more solid out of this one, no matter what. But this is the probably the hardest point for both teams to commit to in terms of the ground game. And you can already see Dizzy just struggling off to the side here as Crappy gets picked out. And already Flashful's trying to make this a little bit more commanding as they've kind of caught AHQ in a bind here. This was not a nice position for AHQ, kind of, I won't say walked into that trap, but they certainly didn't do themselves any favor with how they set themselves up, and this point is going over to Flashful.
Especially because both teams are technically running the same composition here. AHQ immediately took, I would say, a more defensive route to get to the point, which is through that corridor in a more narrow space. Flashful's controlled the space extremely well. They had the open courtyard outside. I want to say positionally, Flashful's had exactly all the space they needed to do what they wanted to. AHQ were extremely limited.
Yeah, and I mean, all the corridors are tight on this map, so that marginal difference of fighting through that doorway was all it took for AHQ. Now they're kind of committing to the same area here. They're already forcing a Transcendence out of Sinclair, which is pretty big with Realman's already out of the picture, but they do still need to find an opportunity to get onto the point itself. Cameron starting to do work. That's a good sticky bit. Did that get eaten, actually? I think
not too sure, because I heard the sound effects with it ticking down, but maybe
it also looked like it was stuck. In any case, the show goes on. Zonda getting low is forced to back after they got K-Momo out of the mech. So AHQ positionally had the upper hand here as they're starting to keep the pressure on now onto the healers. And this time it's Flashful's in a bit of a positional bind. There's no ideal avenue to fight through for them. And now the sound barrier committed by AHQ to try and secure this one out. There's some good bumps, man, but he's not quite dying to the cars as Dizzy's going to get an opportunity to refight the point. And while that was all happening, AHQ got the cap.
Yeah, I mean, AHQ got for Flashful's, they got a little bit distracted. Like you said, spent a lot of time onto Dizzy, and they didn't secure that kill, not in the way they wanted to anyway.
Too busy playing in traffic.
Pretty much. When you get caught up in traffic, you don't quite make it to the point on time, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Flash Rules are just in a bit of a jam.
Oh, well, I'll give you that one. Flash
Rules
did end up using quite a bit there. They're losing Realman early, having the Transcendence forced out by Sinclair early as well. It was a good recovery by Flash Rules, and for AHQ, they didn't quite get the retake they wanted because they needed Dizzy to get more of the attack visor, which they didn't.
Well, that was the avenue for Bacon Jack, who was trying to kind of sneak in onto the side, but it didn't quite pay off, and now once again, Flash Rules are kind of caught in this tighter position. AHQ are the ones surrounding them. They're kind of all over this. Came over out of the mech. Even if this kill onto Bacon Jack doesn't go through, the fact that they're consistently forcing Flash Rules well away from this point is huge for AHQ.
I think both teams realized they committed quite a bit there in the last fight. AHQ coming in with again, that back positioning has been sort of their area they've wanted to control so far for the majority of the game. They keep going back there, especially placing Dizzy in that sort of safer area, and they kind of won that with only one ultimate use as well. So they're in a decent spot here, but it is them also ahead in progress, which is really great.
Yeah, also keep an eye on how they are positioning these Zenyatas, right? Singler is way safer. Sorry, not Singler. Singler is way less safe, is what I'm actually... The exact opposite of what I said is what I meant. While Eddie Boss, not only is he more tightly wrapped within his team, he's just positioning in safer positions. It's one of the quirks of being on the defense right now for AHQ, but it means Flash Rules are finding it even harder to get in, and they're eventually just going to have to commit an ultimate. Here comes the Transcendence out of them, but Zonda isn't in it. This is already big for AHQ, even in losing Cowman, because they had the sound barrier to commit. Singler's now out of the picture. The sound barrier catches way less members. AHQ still in control of this fight, and now with Lazy Titan, the self-destruct to open up if they can to at least force Flash Rules positioning. This is a good cleanup though by Flash Rules, just trying to, again, it's the Bacon Jack effect, right? They're just trying to do it with him alone. There goes the self-destruct to come out, forces Flash Rules off for a moment, will give them time to regroup.
Zonda's turn to play.
He's not finding much though, it's all just kind of getting absorbed here by Lazy Titan. Good positioning by him, and he's now buying time for his team to come back in to maybe get a hold. They're going to let this one go over, come in for re-engage.
This is really good progress for HQ so far. They're not only getting ahead in progress, they're forcing additional ults out of Flash Wolves and really making them fight to retake the points. I mean, they got themselves all the way to 99, plus attack visor, plus a primal rage used by Flash Wolves as well. So now again for AHQ, they just got to play the retake game and they can immediately get this win. They might want to just wait for primal rage to come up before they really engage, and I think Cowman also needs to be able to get a kill with Pulse Bomb.
Yes. Pretty much the keys of the game there. Yeah, Cowman completely goes wide. Bacon Jack did go wide himself though, so that's kind of even Stevens, but Cowman is the one having a harder time positioning himself around the fight, has to kind of dash to safety, and now Dizzy as well getting pressured in. Erican going in to try and make some space for them, forced to pop the ultimate basically straight away, and now the sound barrier means he's not going to do much damage, he's just going to try and force positioning, bumping Zonda off to the side here. Like I said, trying to make space for the DPS, but with the supports out of the picture, the DPS can't safely take up that space, and Flash Wolves actually hold control of the point. I think they will get this, purely because AHQ weren't able to create the space they needed to actually take the fight to where Flash Wolves were. And that was just good defense by Flash Wolves.
I mean, Flash Wolves are just chasing HQ out at this point. Dizzy's already out of the fight. All their damage is gone. This is Transcendence just to try and stall things out, but I don't think it's going to do anything.
No, they forced the sound barrier as well, again, for that stalling, but you're right, it's not really doing anything because they don't have DPS on the point. It's just Cowman, and he's not really finding any kills himself. Bacon Jack is really stopping anyone from following them up, and yeah, good last ditch by AHQ, I guess, but it was pretty manageable. That was just well controlled by Flash Wolves. Their defense did look tighter than AHQ's.
And that last offense from AHQ as well, where I said, look, they have two options here. They have a Pulse Bomb and they have a Primal Rage. Pulse Bomb went wide very quickly. They needed to find, I would like to think, something with that, and very much so something with that. And then the Primal Rage as well. It was kind of 50-50. Yeah, you got the positional advantage, but they needed to get some kills out of that. Good response from Flash was with the sound barrier to make sure there was no way they were going to drop any members. As soon as the sound barrier went down, AHQ had nothing left in the gas tank to finish things out. And as soon as the rest of the ultimates for Flash Wolves came up, it was cleanup and just trickle members, staggered kills against AHQ. It completely ended their offense.
And also part of that defense I had to highlight for Flash Wolves was actually Bacon Jack's positioning. I mentioned that they weren't able to follow up on the little bit of space that Erican got them right at the end. And a lot of that was Bacon Jack constantly harassing the backliners.
We got a really different composition now. AHQ going for a full tank shield lineup. Flash Wolves going back towards the Sombra play as well.
Yeah,
this works well for Flash Wolves because you want to be playing Sombra into a Reinhardt shield.
Yeah, it is AHQ already having a little bit of a better start off here. Still fairly even on either side, but it's the tanks that are alive for AHQ, and they can still dish out a good amount of damage. Plus, with that Roadhog having plenty of health, they can get a few more picks to close it out a little bit, and this should be them setting themselves up on the point. It's really on Flash Wolves to counter this.
Yeah, and I want to say this is AHQ special as well. This is exactly what they specialize in. This is their flavor of the month. They pick their own meta. Triple tank is the AHQ
Yeah,
line.
this is Chef's best.
Pretty much. I think this is, soup of the day for AHQ. And for Flash Wolves, I think you said it quite right as well. It's up to them to counter what AHQ are doing. And if you
that's not how you do it.
And if you are running a Sombra, it's not good to be behind a Sombra. Sombra is good here for Flash Wolves if Flash Wolves have control of the point. They do not have control.
That right there, what we just saw with Cowman picking Zonda is exactly how they beat Blank in a couple of their matches, right? They would just get one pick, and that was enough for Flash Wolves to go, okay, look, we can't risk engaging now because we're one more pick away from just losing completely.
All right, well, we got the EMP up for Flash Wolves, so this is now attack time. See what they can get. They are losing a decent amount of progress, and a good EMP might just set themselves up. This is exactly, they need to be able to get it onto Erican if they can. Take him down as the first target.
That is a very good retreat out of Erican, though, and he might even be able to get all the way back. Oh, not quite. They run him down just barely. Now they're looking to commit on the back line as the EMP is out, and they are just opening it up. Good pick on by Cowman, but the Flash Wolves are kind of bringing the pressure here onto the rest of AHQ. It's really just kind of Cowman sat underneath this one. There should be a cap over for Flash Wolves unless something crazy does come out of AHQ, but they do have the ultimates in the bag now. If they do regroup, they may be able to pull it out. No,
that was a hard situation for AHQ because I see exactly what Flash Wolves wanted to do there, and good sort of patience out from Sinclair to not really blow the EMP early until they can make sure they can get past Erican, and they're just cleaning up once again. Bacon Jack with the triple, and Flash Wolves as well. Sorry, for AHQ, it was a situation where if you want to help out Erican, you put your entire team into the EMP sort of range by being with Erican. If you don't, Erican just goes down.
There was also, I think, a bit of a mistake at the end there that they're now paying for in terms of ult economy. They could have actually backed off and had the ult lead and just kind of re-engaged the fight, which worked for them in the first opening skirmish anyway. They opted not to.
Again.
Now fighting through an EMP with an ultimate disadvantage. This is a lost fight, and they should just back off.
Does he already take visors? So they got to commit something into this. They're not willing to back out. They want to get some kills, and they are in position.
That's a good Earth Shatter, actually, and that could be all they need to secure it. They kind of lasted just barely through that EMP. Not quite closing out the kills, though, even as K-Momo is getting pressured out of this mech. This is still untouched off to the side here. Finally getting committed onto by this Winston. No health pack there. It's hacked by Sombra.
Good heals from Boss.
And also the Sombra having the health pack there kept Dizzy alive for so long. They haven't actually got the point back, but they've got the positional advantage, which they're now executing on as they take out K-Momo. The self-destruct to create
Lazy
space.
Titan again.
Even picks up kills
Easy
as well. Poor retreat by Flash Wolves to get away from that. They had the mobility to do so, and now this is AHQ. That was a very risky forced fight, but they did make it work.
What I appreciate from AHQ decision-making wise is what I thought they should have done on the initial EMP play from Flash Wolves is you see Sinclair's pressuring you with the Sombra. You know they're going to go for an EMP play. You can use ultimates before that EMP comes out, and it kind of nullifies the EMP effect by a lot.
Yeah, the team couldn't exactly follow up on it because they were all running into a tactical visor, and then it ran out as the team decided now we can follow up, and then they all walked into an Earth Shatter.
This time, though, for AHQ, they have the tech visor again. They're not going to be able to use everything else with that. This is good because
once again, split second before the hack comes through. And again, he has the positional advantage. He's only taken out Jongi, but like I said, it's the positional advantage that counts. That barely went through in the overtime here. AHQ are kind of getting routed out, but Lazy Titan is still going to harass until the end of his days here. Going to pull off and have plenty in the tank to come back swinging.
They actually get decent trades. Cowman, for some reason, well, not for some reason, the guy's just really good at Roadhog, but consistently picking Zonda out of all people. He's been the Zonda killer of University so far.
Dragon Blade kill come through. There have been Dragon Blades.
Single-handedly shutting down Zonda, which has been great. And AHQ is still, they're currently getting back into the fight. We are going to go, I believe, into double overtime here.
Singular trying to harass the backline is having a bit of a hard time, but they love Jongi as well, so they don't have a front line they can go toe-to-toe with Triple Jack. What a hook! Bacon Jack not going to be able to harass these backliners. That's a nice self-destruct to come out. Oh, securing two! Could actually swing it back in Flash Wolves' favor. The respawns will come through, and Bacon Jack can throw in a pulse bomb. As a good catch onto K-Momo, throwing out the self-destruct, but Lazy Titan is going to secure it. That's the important thing. Yeah, it's starting to swing in favor of AHQ, and now it's Flash Wolves who have to trickle in. They'll be walking into an Earth Shatter. This could be the first one to get kills. Can he get anyone? No, not a single Dragon Blade kill this game.
They might still win. I think they're going to get it.
Yeah, it may be just here. Erican not quite finding enough with that Earth Shatter. Shatter and now bumped into the middle of the point. No backup and support, and actually Flashwolves do kind of secure it at the end. Even though I felt throughout that entire game, AHQ were executing better.
It was more of attrition right at the end though, because as AHQ, yeah, they survived the EMP, they got their own ultimates out there. Lazy Titan, he picked up a couple of kills, but for Flash Wolves, I mean, Sound Barrier and Dragon Blade right at the end, AHQ had zero response ahead in Earth Shadow, which Erikin unfortunately couldn't commit, not in the way he wanted to. If he had caught maybe specifically Zonda with that would have been a turnaround. That would have shut down the Dragon Blade, which would have meant zero successful Dragon Blades for Zonda. In fact, I don't even know if that was a particularly successful Dragon Blade, but it was enough of a big threat. It put AHQ into a bit of a panic mode where they were already losing members anyway. And then the Sound Barrier just kind of put the nail in the coffin because it says, look, you can't even counter trade us now anyway. That's the game for Flash.
Yeah, at that point, it wasn't about the kills. It was about how it made AHQ position. When you're the ones attacking onto that point, it's not like it's, you know, one single choke point or anything, but when you've got that triple tank, you do tend to funnel into that middle one. When you've got the threat of a Genji onto your backliners, you do have to position more cautiously. That creates windows. And it wasn't that, you know, Flash was just getting more kills or anything like that. It was they were getting a little bit more mileage out of their ultimates. And I think one of the key moments we saw that was right at the end there, where Erikin was pretty much the only person left. He was a hair's breadth away from getting some support from the rest of his team, and his Earth Shatter caught one guy. Yeah. And there were three guys right in front of him. Had he turned slightly, he would have caught more.
I think he panicked.
Would have also caught Zonda dashing on towards him. It's hard to say whether he panicked or he just didn't quite catch it because he was like, okay, the support is going to be coming in. But had that caught three members, that would have been the extra touch of mileage that AHQ needed to get their members on, probably cap the point, and probably actually
To be honest, I think at that point, though, AHQ had already lost enough members that had the Earth Shatter come down, I don't know that they would have had the damage to secure the kills, because it's not just good enough to land the Earth Shatter.
It would have given them more runway.
It would have given them a bit of time for possible recovery, but they were already waiting for respawners. Specifically, they needed the damage output of everyone else to secure the kills. And if it's just Eric and a couple of supports, maybe another tank in there, if Dizzy specifically isn't there, that's a big problem for AHQ's overall damage output. But more so than that, it was an Earth Shatter going into Sound Barrier as well. So even if you had a couple players to break through the Sound Barrier, even on top of the Earth Shatter that you land, I think is a bit of an ask. But, you know, at the end there, I think it was a better setup by Flash Wolves. Again, more of attrition. Flash Wolves, they had a little bit more in the bank to use right at the end, and that little bit more goes a long way when it's into overtime, and they had just enough to push it over the line.
Yeah, and I think the more important thing on top of that, you know, given that it's a more attrition situation there, is actually we saw Flash Wolves' adaptive play come through there. Very first fight that AHQ were really able to swing in their favor, Dizzy set up on the high ground off to the side, not on the big sort of curved area, in the room off to the side instead. Did a lot of work, drew a lot of attention from the tanks, had already taken out some key members of the backline as it was. Second time around, much more contested, still got good mileage, but not as much, which meant the rest of AHQ had to do a little bit more. And this is what I say when I say Flash Wolves are getting just a touch more mileage. And a lot of that wasn't coming from, oh, they were getting off better ultimates. It's they were putting more into shutting down how much AHQ could get out of not just their ultimates, but also the positioning they were trying to go for, because AHQ didn't change up their positioning a whole lot in each of those attacks. And when you do that, if the other enemy team works it out, their defenses are going to look cleaner and cleaner each time because you aren't adapting and they are.
Let's also consider it's a 3-0 so far for Flash Wolves on the first map. It was a bit of a clean wipeout. You can actually see on your screen here the hero selections and the compositions. The only thing really I want to point out is Flash Wolves and the Sombra Genji sort of pick out right at the end there. Nothing else to really stand out. It is just normal. And also I guess I want to say AHQ running the triple tank finally on the third stage on University, but aside from that, it was essentially mirror for both teams. Now we kind of, I would say, kind of predicted that maybe Flash Wolves were going to come in a lot more prepared, specifically for a map like Oasis that hasn't been played a lot in the OPC, even when it was around. So AHQ going down 0-3, I'm kind of thinking a couple of those could have gone their way because it was 99-99 for a couple of those in there. What do we think so far about Flash Wolves and their sort of how they're looking against Flash Wolves tonight?
I mean, for one thing, right, if we say it's 99-99, well, Flash Wolves got it over the line where AHQ didn't. And I talked a little bit about how that was, to use the term again, extra mileage. And more importantly, shutting down AHQ's mileage, right? If the way you get over the line is by stopping the other person from getting over the line, that is plenty enough. That's actually all you need to do. Doesn't matter if it's 99 to 99 or 99 to 0. If your entire way of winning is stopping the other team from winning, that is as good as just being so good at winning no one can get close to you, right? It's not about running the race faster, it's about stopping them from getting over the finish line. And that's actually quite an important thing because that, in my opinion, is something that's going to give them a lot more mileage over the series. The other thing I want to touch on that you kind of brought it up was the Sombra pickup. I'm not going to go so far as to say Sombra is a counter to triple tank, but I like how they used it there. I don't know that they predicted triple tank. I think they wanted to pull it out for that map anyway for other reasons, but certainly it opened up their options against triple tank because one of the big things about Sombra, like she's not a counter in that, oh, she's going to do all the damage for you. In fact, we often consider her as having low DPS, but once the EMP is off, on all three of those tanks, they are just health bars. Yeah. And that is a lot of ultimate charge for your team. And they use that, so like I say, in terms of shutting down enemy mileage, that is probably the biggest contributor to that for Flash Wolves. And it's not because Sombra is a triple tank counter. You do still have to play it right, and your team does still have to follow up on it, but they stuck to their guns, and it really paid off.
And something else I noticed specifically in that matchup that we saw on Oasis, just across the board really, is the Bacon Jack versus Cowman matchup, where significant amounts of time,
we saw the disparity.
It was just Bacon Jack beating Cowman every single time. This has been a weakness I pointed out for AHQ before, specifically when we look at the AHQ versus Blank game. Cowman doesn't even bother bringing out the Tracer really against IU up. It's kind of a suicide mission. It even is here as well. Now, I kind of rate IU up and Bacon Jack roughly on the same level. It's up to you to debate which one you think is a little bit better. Currently, I might say Eat Up kind of edges out Bacon Jack on the pulse from consistency, just gets them more regularly and gets more kills if he does get them anyway. But realistically, in terms of just the pure aiming mechanics and the damage output, fairly similar, and it made a big difference when Cowman was trying to duel Bacon Jack or any sort of moments where the two Tracers were trading, and it wasn't really a trade, it was more just Bacon Jack stepping on him.
Yeah, and I touched on that as well a little bit at a point there. Part of why Flash Wolves' defenses look so good, like I said, it's that denial of space, it's that denial of potential mileage, and a lot of that was how he was harassing the backliners of AHQ compared to when AHQ were on the defensive. It's not, his Tracer on defense compared to Cowman's on offense, because those are two different Tracers in two different situations. You play them very, very differently. They do harass, but the attacking side is doing it more to create room, to create space, and the defending one
just
is
quickly,
denial.
next map is going to be Numbani as well.
And this is AHQ's pick. Oh, we'll jump on that in a second, but I'll just finish up what I'm going for there. So, and even then when Flash Wolves were on the offense themselves, Bacon Jack looked equal to Cowman's offense, and then that defense, he looked better. That's all you need.
Yeah, and the other thing is AHQ for me feels like a defend the Dizzy team. It's very much Dizzy's your guy. He's the main DPS. He does the majority of the damage. He's there, probably one of the best.
He's your lead
players.
trumpet.
He's probably one of your best hit scan players in the entire OPC. I rate his Soldier extremely highly, and of course, you want to keep him on Soldier. He plays Soldier for all three stages of Oasis, to sort of varying degrees of results, and not necessarily for himself, but in terms of how his team was playing around it. Now, on Control, I do believe the entire Protect Dizzy thing doesn't quite work as, say, when we look at a Scored, Assault, Hybrid, whatever, on Control. This is kind of also what makes sense is why AHQ go for those narrow corridors, narrow hallways, where it does make it easy to protect Dizzy, and you don't put Dizzy in the open spaces where guys like Bacon Jack can then come around and completely assassinate him, or at least pressure him in a way that he can't be effective with his damage output in general. And also knowing the fact that Cowman's just not going to be able to defend Bacon Jack off anyway if that happens.
And that's part of why that EMP could be so devastating for AHQ specifically. Let's talk about Numbani.
Which is also why, just quickly compositionally, why the triple tank kind of works in HQ's favor, because it does have a lot of health points to sort of put in front of Dizzy. You meet shield for the guy incredibly hard, but you're right, Numbani has come up now. This is the map where AHQ have entirely taken off Blank in a way where, if anyone has ever said, look, Numbani is Blank's map, now, it is now AHQ.
Yeah,
map.
exactly. They've claimed it off Blank. And I think that's a significant thing because in that same day, and I touched this a little bit earlier, I feel they also claimed Ilios off Fireball. Slightly different.
I don't know if Ilios really was Fireballs.
I mean, it is and it isn't, but that's a slightly different situation because it's also like AHQ at top of the standings, Fireball kind of middling around the spot in 3, but to take Numbani not just off Blank in terms of winning it, but like we said, taking it away from them as like their map. I don't know that this is now AHQ's map in the same, legacy comfort way it was for Blank, but certainly it's a safe map for them. It's a good map for them. And it's a map that no one else right now is better than them on. This is the most unsurprising pick so far.
I actually don't think we've seen too much of Flash Wolves on Numbani either, which is going to be... Well,
aside from the infamous Orisa offense.
That's a lie. We have seen them, I think, now twice, where they have brought out the Orisa offense, and against Blank it was a bit of a joke, and they never showed that against Blank again, but they have brought it out, and I can't remember who the team specifically was they played against, but they have brought it out against another team where it did succeed, but again, that was... I would like to say an easier match for them.
Yeah, it was someone like Hong Kong Attitude.
And also, no, I think it was an easier game than that for them. But it was also a situation where I believe that they could have just traded out the Orisa for something else entirely anyway. And
actually, I'll tell you where it was. It was actually on Kings Road defense. They pulled out the Orisa. That was where that happened. And if I'm not mistaken, it was either against Sun Sister or Detonator Gold.
Yeah, I'm talking about Numbani offense. They pulled Numbani offense Orisa out twice against two different teams, one of which was Blank and the other I can't quite remember right now. But needless to say, the point being, Orisa or not, Numbani has not been a good map so far for Flash Wolves, no matter which way you cut it.
And even if they were looking good on Numbani, I would not call that Orisa an ace up their sleeve. If they had kind of done something really incredible and looked like they'd sort of figured her out, as it were, then maybe I would say that. But right now I wouldn't. I don't think it's fair to say. Look, maybe this is the game where they pull it out and it blows us away.
And we're
like, wow, they're finally... Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe it will, but I mean... That can't be what you bank on, but I don't know what Flash Wolves do bank on if they want to win.
Well, I'll tell you what they can bank on is AHQ right now, because they horizontally, again, are kind of restricted in what they can play. If you're Flash Wolves, you can project their lineups pretty well. You know there's a good chance the triple tank does come out. You know if that doesn't come out, it's probably going to be a 2-2-2 anyway. And most likely, you also understand they pull out Torbjorn a lot, specifically if you watch the Blank games on Numbani, and also Dizzy's going to be playing Soldier. These are the constants for HQ. So Flash Wolves got that to work with.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It is a triple tank, and like you said, protect the Dizzy. I think that was quite an apt term there. Flash Wolves going to be coming into this with Zonda on the Pharah and Singler on the Mercy. This doesn't actually surprise me too much, and I do like this against Torbjorn. I think this is a decent read. The tricky thing will be maneuvering around Caman, because you really have to keep your distance. He will be trying to hunt for either Singler or Zonda.
And Dizzy as well is going to really be looking for Zonda out, trying to shoot him down from the sky. The first goal for Zonda will be to look for the turret and really take that down. There it is. And then the push should start.
Yeah, the question is, how do they get past these tanks? Well, picking
Dizzy down, okay, wow.
Great work by Bacon Jack onto the sides there. Now draining out Cowman as well. This has been a really clean break of this offense. Now Crappy on that Torbjorn. Can't get half the mileage he was hoping for. I don't even know if he's been able to put his turret back down. Picking off Erican as well, and the tanks are in full retreat. Lazy Titan trying to buy time. But Flash Wolves, good, clean offense. And like I said, a total read actually of AHQ.
And at this point, you should be able to read AHQ. You know exactly how they play. You know what compositions they run. You know their win conditions. And Bacon Jake, I didn't see how he killed Dizzy, but however he did, I want to sort of say that it was AHQ making a mistake. And if your goal is to protect Dizzy, you absolutely failed to protect them there. And as soon as Dizzy went down, you see how quickly AHQ start to fall apart.
I'm almost starting to feel the Sombra on Oasis was not accidental and then they made it work or anything like that. I'm starting to think Flash Wolves are just one step ahead of HQ. They read them just now. I think they read them all through Oasis, down to what they would pick specifically on what map. This is a very convincing looking Flash Wolves. They've really done their prep.
There's a bit of change up here as well. Crappy obviously getting off the Torbjorn and onto the Mercy. Gets the initial kill onto onto Jongi. Might just open things up as well.
Tempo res to open up as they pick off Lazy Titan is actually going to swing this back in Flash Wolves' favor as they route Crappy and Dizzy as well. That was a really nice tempo res as well because they didn't have anything else to re-kill Jongi.
Ediboss is feeding.
Even though he was otherwise quite deep. Yeah, Ediboss.
He did not need a biotic grenade there. Just doing that just kind of gave more ult charge to Flash Wolves. Still change ups now. Erican now going to jump onto the Torbjorn. Not the Torbjorn. That's very different to Torbjorn. He's going to be jumping onto the Reinhardt. So AHQ, they're sort of in the space where they're kind of stumped. They're like, what composition are we trying to run here? What are we going to do?
Yeah, stumped indeed. And I mean,
to be fair, Flash Wolves are also changing up a bit.
They are a bit, but I mean, they're changing up in a much safer way. Going off this Mercy, I think they've done this at the right time because they're onto the last checkpoint. They've got plenty of time in the bank, and they've still got enough ultimates that they can make some space.
Wow,
charge
Eric
the rest
down
of them.
early is bad.
Eric going down, like you said, very bad indeed. And Bacon Jack about to get his pulse bomb up. They do pick off Zonda, which is nice, but they only got it with the self-destruct, and I wouldn't call that purposeful. Lazy Titan is now just really deep into this fight, and Flash Wolves, despite having made changes, despite not having many ultimates, are getting a lot of mileage here. And, I mean, they're going to get some good payload distance. AHQ still should be able to defend this, but this is more than they could have asked for.
Yeah, I think Flash Wolves are going to be in a spot where they can't really get pushed out due to Transcendence from Sinclair. From Realment, they swap these heroes. I think Sinclair usually plays the Zenyatta as well. Interestingly enough, they're going to drop the Lucio again. But Zonda, they're going to be able to hopefully get a Dragon Blade in this next fight as well.
Oh.
Gets a hook onto the wrong player.
Yeah, not the target he was looking for, unfortunately.
They still get the mech.
Yeah, these are not the droids. Yeah, getting the mech is significant enough just because it gives Flash Wolves, frankly, less health bar to give Zonda space. Cowman really trying to make it happen. Opening up with this whole hog. I feel like all this is doing is buying them time. They're not exactly closing out much on Flash Wolves. And yeah, like you said, backing up now, all they got was Bacon Jack. And that was Dizzy. That wasn't even the whole hog.
They might just wait for Bacon Jack to respawn here, but essentially Flash Wolves are ready to go. They're ready to go now.
Yeah, they're committed in with that Transcendence as well. That's an okay boost from Eddie Boss, kind of getting onto the Reinhardt there, but it's not going to do enough, and Zonda doing way more. I feel like that was just a miscommitment of ultimates by AHQ to react to Flash Wolves' play. They pulled the trigger with no hesitation, and it kind of took AHQ off guard. This should be Flash Wolves, maybe not getting the cap straight away, but in position to do so.
Missed Zonda with that Earth Shadow.
Yeah.
It's a little bit unfortunate. It's almost like a repeat of University on Oasis again. Eric came out with the basically only saving ultimate AHQ had. The difference here is because they're defending on the third checkpoint of an escort map, the reinforcements do come out quite quickly for HQ, so had he landed a fantastic hammer, there is a possibility HQ turn that one around. Unfortunately, doesn't catch Zonda second time around. AHQ, they had not a lot left to use there for Flash Wolves. It was really interesting because they didn't even need to wait for Bacon Jack to realistically get back in the fight. They sort of just pushed themselves into, we already got Transcendence, we already got Dragon Blade, let's use it. And then as Bacon Jack respawned back in the fight, anyway, the other members picked up ultimates, and that basically gave them enough to then push it in.
Yeah, didn't even catch the two tanks that were right in front of him. I mean, that's the thing. Even if you were looking for Zonda only and you didn't catch him, that is bad decision making because you could have got two targets, right? Now, sure, Zonda was cleaning up a bunch of kills. It looked very impressive, but in terms of mileage, in terms of buying time, I don't know. There are so many other things that the Reinhardt could have done in that situation. So the thing I kind of want to touch on this, right? Have Flash Wolves like hired a PI to follow AHQ around? Like, they know everything about them right now.
Well, to be honest, I've kind of just told, if you ask me about AHQ, I could also just tell you everything about them because let's be honest, if you've watched AHQ, you've learned what they do. They do one or two things. They do them extremely well, but they just do one or two things. They're not a super flexible team. It is starting to catch up to them. And Flash Wolves, yeah, obviously they're research AHQ because, look, AHQ have been doing extremely well against Blank. They've noticed Blank's weaknesses and they capitalize on that. Now it's time for Flash Wolves to do the same against AHQ. And for the first time, AHQ is a team where I always applaud how cleanly they play, how sort of coordinated and meticulous they are. But they are getting dismantled quite hard by Flash Wolves in the sense that Flash Wolves are able to put AHQ on such a back foot that AHQ are thinking, what do we even run here? Let's put Crappy on the Mercy. Let's not do that. Let's put him on the Lucio. Now let's put Eric in a Winston. Let's put him on the Reinhardt again.
Yeah,
they're almost stuck.
Exactly. I wouldn't even say they look bad or they're playing, significantly worse or anything like that. It is just Flash Wolves have figured them out. It's like a Rubik's Cube.
It's almost like AHQ are kind of refiguring themselves out again. They do put Dizzy back onto the Soldier, which I like. This is his best pick. You want to put your best player on his best pick for the best results.
Yeah, also Bacon Jack onto the Soldier.
It's safer. It's safer defending.
Yeah.
Running a Tracer on defense here is not really super effective, so the Soldier is a better pick specifically for Bacon Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I do like it in that regard, but you also know that AHQ are going to go for something quite mobile on their own offense. I mean, with this Diva, with this Winston, that's a lot of what they do, and you do still want to have the option of harassing the backliners, but I also don't disagree with that. I mean, you could argue either, but safety isn't a bad call here.
So here's the thing, Realment's about to hit the shield generator, which is what I assume they will be putting down.
Would be surprised if they didn't.
I mean, the respawn distance is pretty good for defenders. What, he dies?
Wow, Cowman, Hunter Killer. That was just in the nick of time as well, and gets out with his life with 9 health. This makes it actually really tricky for Flash Wolves.
That timing was actually bad. And the reason it's bad is because it's not his fault it's bad, but if Realman had put down the shield generator and then Cowman killed him, he could have also gotten the shield generator.
That is a good point, but this has given AHQ a window. It took them a moment, but now they're executing on that window. I think the shield generator, actually I think he's been forced to do the teleporter just so Flash Wolves can keep this fight alive, because I don't see any health bars getting bumped up here.
This is a good play.
It's going to be an ultimate out of Bacon Jack, but straight dived onto by Erican, takes him out of the picture, keeps the window open for AHQ, and they are poised to cap this point.
That was
Realman also using up the teleporter.
That was an extremely good response out of Erican, specifically to take down Bacon Jack. If you're on HQ, you know, okay, cool, the tag visor comes out. That is the weapon Flash Wolves need to get themselves back in this defense, to get themselves back on and secure it. And for Erican, I mean, just makes one decision, makes the right call, gets it in there. It's not over just yet, though. Flash Wolves, good respawning time, so...
I mean, they had enough time to kind of come back towards this fight, but it's still not exactly going well. Dizzy didn't find much with the tactical visor, but I feel like Flash Wolves are just kind of throwing in ult charge now. Jongi is going to try and sit on the point, but he doesn't have any defensive tools.
This should be over.
Alive. K-Momo is going to try and zone them off for a moment with the self-destruct, but he's not going to get much for it. And all they've done, like I said, is given away ultimate charge and still less the point.
Well, the thing that's good for Flash Wolves is they got ultimate charge back out of AHQ, because AHQ, they are still put on a position where, look, they're not going to be able to cap it without using ults of their own in that specific situation, and AHQ weren't willing to risk it. So both teams kind of use their... I want to kind of put it out there and say, at the end of the day, Flash Wolves did come out ahead for the reason that they also got ultimates out of HQ, but also that they delayed time. So in terms of looking at where I'm expecting both teams to now go to time bank, Flash Wolves being able to delay the time here does work in their favor.
Certainly does. It's better than nothing. And I mean, even if you just look at how long it took AHQ to get that first point versus Flash Wolves in an overtime situation, you can argue Flash Wolves are naturally favored, but here's going to be the continued push. Cowman again going wide with the pulse bomb. Now trying to get onto the back line. Just,
that is not a duel he can win.
Runs right in the face of Bacon Jack, so he's not even finding Realman and Singler. Those are the key targets for him. Now gets completely shut down, and AHQ kind of lose their rope to go on here.
Flash Wolves should be able to secure a couple more kills here. Just getting one is kind of not where Flash Wolves want to be sitting. They have to try and convert, and they are struggling to actually get themselves in there. Zondo tried to make the wraparound play, did get themselves shut down, and that is the kind of stick you want to get as a Tracer player.
They're actually going to commit to the fight off the back of that, and I do not disagree in the slightest, putting the nano boost straight down, and Dizzy able to do a bit of work. Does get taken out, sorry, not Dizzy, Zondo doing a bit of work. Do take down
saving.
Dizzy. Yeah, saving ults, which is key.
That's important because I think Flash Wolves may have overcommitted with the nano booster. With the nano, I think what they wanted is AHQ to then spend something in response to the nano and say, oh, maybe we can spend something here and try and win it back on. Flash Wolves, you know, I think they lost that deal.
They're going to be okay, though. I mean, look, first of all, they've got a good position here, so they're going to get more ultimate charge, and AHQ made 2 swaps, so they're only even for ult charge because of that. Actually, it's ended up working out for Flash Wolves. I feel like that was a mistimed change out of AHQ. They kind of lost the mileage they just gained, and now Flash Wolves just gave themselves even more.
Yeah, this is now AHQ kind of falling apart. They had an advantage there. They had the ability to come back with a ton of ults ahead of Flash Wolves, and then, you know, really give themselves a retake there, but it is a lot of kills going up for Flash Wolves.
Cowman's the one in desperate need of ult charge as well, and he keeps getting prioritized and picked. Now Dizzy finally going to open up with this ultimate. They've decided to commit to the fight anyway, and they have taken advantage of Flash Wolves' positioning very aggressively. I would argue very greedily, but man, that looked really dicey for AHQ.
Dizzy's turned on. Yeah, he's starting to really get these kills in there now. For AHQ, they found a hole in Flash Wolves' defense, and they are starting to capitalize really hard. I would be surprised if they didn't get that kill, if they didn't get the, sorry, not the kill, they obviously were going to get the kill, but if they weren't going to get the cap here because they're still delaying, they're still staggering out these final kills, Flash Wolves are going to find it hard to actually get these respawners.
This is all the necessary ult charge for them as well. And like I said, Flash Wolves had a good defense, but didn't actually retreat from that. They decided to do it again, and you know, shame on me if you fooled me twice.
Exactly. It's a difficult place because every kill for Flash Wolves does not count equally for the kills on HQ. The HQ respawners are so close. For Flash Wolves, if you lose a member, you got to come all the way back from this spawn here. So eventually Flash Wolves will no longer be able to make that hole.
Yeah, here's going to be the commit now. Flashwall's going in with the sound barrier. Very telegraphed though. Oh, good hook, but doesn't quite kill him because of that sound barrier. Very lucky there. But they don't have ultimates to go in here with that sound barrier out of the picture. They were hoping to, I think, charge some more. They might just have to cede some ground to AHQ here and re-engage.
I might also correct you. I think it was the Matrix that saved them because I didn't see the HP bar going down despite the sound barrier.
Yeah. There we go. This is what Flashwalls were after. They do just barely get the Dragon Blade, and that seems to be all they need, man. The pure pressure put on by Zonda puts the rest of HQ in disarray, and Flashwalls mop them up like spilled soda.
Well, I guess you'd have to spill a decent amount of soda to want to mop it up, but you usually just use a bit of a paper towel. But Flashwalls...
If you spill like the whole bottle, like there is no amount of paper towel that's going to save you.
AHQ are sitting on roughly the same amount of ults as they were when they were defending this kind of play, and so far I think Erikin has been kind of, I don't want to say unlucky, it's just been unfortunate with his Earth Shatters, both in the sense that he isn't catching the right players, and also in the sense that it doesn't matter if he does, because his team is usually kind of dead by that time and they can't really react.
This is now tight for AHQ. They do have good ultimates here, but even that didn't win them the last one against Flashwalls. Luckily, Bacon Jack did whiff if you're an AHQ fan, but they at best are getting into time bank here, right? And at best they're doing so with, you know, about a minute. That's not ideal for them. Sound barrier already out means they have to hard commit. That's a good transcendence out of Singler. Gives a lot of time over to Flashwolves. The self-destruct out of Lazy Titan does not find much at all.
Shadow went down as well somewhere.
There we go. That's the secure. They take out K-Momo, now Bacon Jack as well with the Nano Visor combo. They are giving themselves the space they need. They should be able to get a cap through provided they can clean up this Ana. Oh, not quite.
Realman has a nano?
Surely. Oh, at the last second. That was key, and Realman didn't get the nano off. This is the room they need. They will get the cap through, but we are going to time bank.
And I think for HQ, it looks really difficult for them. Even the last push through air, just getting rid of the self-destruct. HQ should be able to pick this one, but I don't see a way for Flashwolves to get back in there. Not even that final Dragon Blade.
Yeah, not quite. Not quite. They would have liked it. They had the nano booster as well to combo with it, but that was...
I want to comment on the final kills there against Realman and Sinclair, because Realman really wanted to get the nano boost out there, but his option was nanoing the Zenyatta. So, yeah. I mean, that's not really what you don't want. That's not really what you want.
Remember back when it also gave you a speed boost, and at the same time Transcendence, like there were all these clips of like nano boosting and Transcendence Zenyatta's, like it was so cool. Couldn't get any kills, but you couldn't die.
Yeah, you can't take advantage of the 50% damage boost or the 50% damage reduction. But the speed, I'll tell you what, the speed.
Oh boy, oh boy, yeah, fastest robot in the West.
So yeah, it's in terms of the order the players were killed in, getting rid of all the ideal targets for nano boost from HQ, whether that was deliberate or not, really worked out in their favor. It was one of the key reasons I think they actually got in the end.
And then cutting the nano boost at the end.
Because had Realman put his nano boost on a critical target, something like his main tank or on Zonda, who had a Dragon Blade coming up anyway, that might have been enough to secure it back into Flashwolves. But because Realman had no one to put it on, and then Sinclair died anyway, both your supports are gone. All that was respawning, you had K-Momo respawning on D.Va alone. Cool, the self-destruct came out, killed nothing. You kill him anyway as soon as he's out of the mech. I mean, that's it. That's just sealed. That sealed the game for AHQ.
If anything, Realman taking so long to die, as much as Flashwolves really had to go hard on him to kill him, it actually gave them the space they needed then to kill the DPS when they respawned before Realman was back with the nano
boost. So this is the same lineup Flashwolves have
used
used before. We know how this works for them.
Yeah.
They only have to cap a third as well, by the way, because we went into overtime previously.
Yeah. This is... I feel like this is AHQ showing that one-dimensionality you've been talking about. And I mean, look, Flashwolves have already beaten it with this exact comp. It's going to be AHQ magically just improving their skill cap.
Well, this time, this time where they failed to predict Dizzy, they should keep him alive, because AHQ, don't forget, have consistently first held blank. I know Flashwolves are not blank, but AHQ have the pedigree. They have the history of being able to show they can get the first hold in. And by the way, Flashwolves have less time to work with than they normally would on an attack. They started with 3 minutes and something, not 4 minutes, so it does still work for AHQ a little bit.
Yeah, and by the way, I would like to correct myself earlier. I was saying Realman. I was actually referring to Eddie Boss AHQ supports. My apologies on that, but moving now steadily into the future. Yeah, held a little bit better this time around. Gives Crappy time to get that armor economy rolling, and that's a lot of the reason for running this Torbjorn.
Which is actually more useful than what Flash Wolves did with their Symmetra, because we didn't see a shield generator. The teleporter ended up buying a lot of time, but not securing the defense anyway. So that was a bit of a throwaway, in my opinion, for Flash Wolves. And so far, as far as the armor coming up from AHQ, it will put them ahead.
Yeah, I guarantee you that would have been a shield generator as well had he not died.
It should have been.
Yeah, it should have been.
He was pressured into putting the teleport.
It was a good reaction by HQ as well. But yeah, that armor being up, I mean, just that tiny bit of extra health, it really changes things, especially against Zonda here on this Pharah. So, oh wow.
Look at the positioning here, actually. The turret and Dizzy are in the same space.
Yeah, I like
and
this.
Lazy Titan can protect them both with the Matrix. So
yeah, Zonda cannot safely open up a rocket barrage as well until that turret is really out of the picture. And picking him up, oh, that's a big res out of Sinclair actually. HQ already out of resources. Cowman is all they've got left, but that's given Zonda the space for this rocket barrage. It got Eddie Boss. That was all he wanted to do, take him out of the picture, because all they needed to do was deny healing to the tanks that was still alive. They did that, got that third. That was very nicely done. Huge res, totally won the game.
I think the res was absolutely what secured it right at the end of the day. And you have a Nano Visor going into that. He couldn't find Mercy. He couldn't find, I'm trying to remember, was it Sinclair that played him or Realman? I think it was
Sinclair on the Mercy.
Was Sinclair correct? That's right, because Realman does usually play the Lucio. Now these guys are
it's play at the aim too. We're really going to see how
I'm getting tripped up on the supports.
I guarantee he's hiding. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So this is where he actually was. You can see Nano Visor was sort of in the middle there as well. Immediately jumps to the Zonda. That's the rocket barrage that we were looking for. So we were saying before, very difficult to get that safely. And he did get it safely when Dizzy was already on the other side away from Zonda. Then it was a matter of Zonda picking up a couple of kills on the side. And also, just before we get to it, it's interesting because Sinclair and Realman have been changing up a little bit. They both played Zenyatta now, and they have been running a decent amount of no Lucio, which is starting to be where the meta is slowly shifting towards, is drop the Lucio, let's run both Zenyatta and Ana and see how we go. And Flash Wolves are definitely taking advantage of that. So there's a time when there was like, I can't tell who's playing who, because both supports are kind of mixing up their roles a little bit.
It's kind of funny because actually having flexibility in support isn't something we've talked about a lot, because we haven't needed to talk about it, but it is something that Flash Wolves seem to have that certainly right now AHQ don't seem to have, and maybe other teams might struggle with. But I actually want to note something else that if you were paying attention to that play of the game, you would have noticed this right at the end as well. We talk about the potential mileage you can get out of that Torbjorn pick specifically, and it's not just the armor economy. It is also one of the key things is Molten Core is very hard to fight through. You have to be very well set up, and if you saw there, it was a split-second thing where the turret went right down just before Crappy activated the Molten Core. And had that been, you know, like I said, a fraction of a second difference, that turret would have survived and could have swung the fight, because that was both Zonda and Bacon Jack who would have been caught by that turret. That would have been the DPS out of the picture and could have been the difference between AHQ holding on and Flash Wolves winning right there and then.
Yeah, the timing is so precise. I mean, just a little bit off either way makes an entirely huge difference. This is the interesting thing about on Numbani is one of the first times we've really seen AHQ defend further than the first point.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen that because AHQs usually hold the first point, and when they don't, it's kind of like, whoa, what do they play here? That's why when we actually saw them, and I was like, okay, Crappy's staying on the Mercy here. He's not going on to the, he's going from Torbjorn to Mercy and not Torbjorn to Lucio. Erikin jumped onto a Winston, and Dizzy's playing a Tracer. It's just like, what's going on? Because it's one part like it's just weird, and the other part is like maybe this is what they do, but we haven't seen it because we've never seen them defend past the first cap.
Yeah, and there was a moment there you kind of pointed out with all the chopping and changing, AHQ looked a little bit in disarray. And I feel like that was one part, you know, haven't actually defended further back on Numbani. And I think the other part as well was, like I said,
just haven't done it in practice.
But also like,
they're just not used to it.
But like, I think it's one part they haven't done in a competitive game. And another part, and this is probably the more significant part actually, is Flash Wolves really do seem to have figured them out. I kind of want to jump on this for two reasons. First of all, this is now terrifying for AHQ because
they're 0-2.
Yeah. Well, not even in terms of the series, right? Because right when they were looking like the best team, someone figured them out. And this happened to Blank too, not so long ago. Someone figured them out, and then everyone followed that example, and a whole bunch of people started beating them. A whole bunch of people started taking them to Game 5, and suddenly Blank are no longer ahead of the curve. AHQ, much the same as Blank, they got one round robin ahead of the curve, and now they're being caught up to. And the other reason that this is terrifying, if we jump back on this idea of an arms race between these two teams, Flash Wolves were the first one to really, really figure out blank. So it was like AHQ, you know, they took them to the game 5 and they got the win. And then Flash was like, well, we can do it even, like, we can figure them out even better. And then AHQ were like, well, we can figure them out even better. And then Flash Wolves turned around to AHQ and gone like, and we figured you out.
I was going to say
that's terrifying.
The tournament ends is just the team that figures out blank the best. That's the whole goal of the
series. Yeah. But that's the thing, like, it's almost like the two teams were having this arms race relative to another team. And Flash Wolves are the one that remembered that they are still going to play AHQ. This tournament doesn't happen in relative terms. You do actually play against these other teams, funnily enough. But like I said, Flash Wolves, they've figured out AHQ as well as having figured out blank previously. This is looking like a team that can adapt the best out of anyone. So it's going to be that versus everyone else's skill level.
And the thing is, because it is also their home day, they get to pick the next map. And if you're already down 2 maps, you've lost on your own map pick as the away team on map number 2. You're getting into what I want to say is Flash Wolves territory. I don't want to say that AHQ can't bring it back, because AHQ did, when was the last time to play? I can't remember if they won Assault or not, but AHQ have been the team with a pretty good Assault record. I think previously Flash Wolves had the best Assault record. I specifically remember, because I went and looked this up, that Flash Wolves ended round robin 1, despite not winning against blank, had a perfect Assault record of 7-0.
And we're the first team to take Assault off blank. AHQ immediately followed up with the same. As did later on Hong Kong Attitude, funnily enough. But yeah, that is something to note. And yeah, I'm really trying to rack my brains as well as to how Assault has fallen when these two teams have met the last 2 times, in fact, and I'm struggling to remember. But in any case, I find it really tricky to say that either team is favored here. I mean, Flash Wolves do have the home pick, but I don't know that there is any particular map they are significantly more favored on. Maybe they just lean towards Hanamura just because, but I don't like. It's like a 5%.
I can tell you this like because from what we have seen, both Hanamura and Temple of Anubis have been good picks for AHQ specifically.
That's the thing. They've like all of these Assault maps have been good picks for both teams. We actually touched on something related to this the other week, in that Assault, of the 3 game modes that will always be played in every single match, has the thinnest map pool, so there are less surprises to come. There's no 4th map, if you will. You know, there's no Ilios, there's no Eichenwald to kind of throw teams off. You know, have something that you've just practiced way more than anyone else, because all of these teams have practiced these pretty well. Volskaya is halfway to that, but even then not completely, and we've seen that now frequently.
We've seen a lot of Volskaya, I think.
Yeah, we started to see it frequently enough, it's hard to even say that anymore. So I don't think there's anything in particular Flash Wolves will pick because they feel favored. I feel like there'll be something they pick because they've prepared something for this matchup specifically.
I kind of agree with that, and you know what? We are going to probably take a little bit of a break as we wait for teams to get themselves ready and also pick map number 3. So far, 2-0 in the lead for AHQ, as they maybe can bounce back against Flash Wolves, or maybe Flash Wolves are going to take it out 3-0 on their home day. We'll find out right after this. Hello and welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship. I'm Kevin Walker again, and also
my name
with
is
me,
Matt Pizza Carroll.
Matt Pizza Carroll, thank you very much. How are you joining that, by the way? It's good.
It's actually really good. Yeah, you made a mistake.
You're having a much better time than AHQ, I think.
You
so
grabbed
far.
a smaller slice than me as well, so
I've already finished my piece, but that's
well,
all
let's
good.
talk about this 3rd map pick, because it's the one.
It is. I think something that Flash Wolves are definitely a decent amount comfortable on. If any team, I think specifically, has a map they are more inclined to go to, that is Volskaya. It's got to be Flash Wolves for me personally, and it definitely plays into the sort of Sombra style that they've established in the OPC as something they, again, is something they kind of own and they do very consistently. And just like Torbjorn for AHQ on defense, this is now the thing that Flash Wolves do, and I expect them to have a defensive Sombra for both Cap 1 and 2.
I like this. I can take a bite and force you to keep talking if I don't want to say anything.
Well, I got a lot to say anyway, so I'm actually okay with that.
I do have something to say here, though, because one of the things I highlighted specifically on Oasis, and it helps that Sombra was also played on that, was I feel Flash Wolves were very successful in this, all right, on this sort of denial of space. And that's exactly what Sombra does, specifically on assault maps, especially on that second point, denies all the health packs, and also can do it on that first point much more effectively than on a lot of other assault maps for Volskaya. You deny the health packs, you don't let them move inch by inch, you make them sprint the full distance and then fight on the point, and then they're still going into an EMP. So in terms of denial of your own setup, it's really, really big, and AHQ do rely on having a good
So here's the difficulty for running a Sombra specifically on the first cap. There is... I speak a lot about timing in terms of pushing against a Sombra composition, particularly you're the attacking team against a defensive Sombra. The timing is you are timing around the EMP play so you can make a play, get your ultimates out there before the EMP really takes into effect. Now for first cap, the dangerous moment for the defensive team is right at the start when, look, you hacked all the health packs, but you haven't taken enough damage yet, you haven't charged up anything, you haven't really had moments to build anything up. Now, EMP does build fairly quickly, but it will build quickly if you can still pull somewhat ahead into the fight. And if you start losing, the EMP is not going to save you if you're in a losing fight at that sort of stage. So for AHQ attacking into defensive Sombra, their best chance is right in the very first fight, establish dominance, and just push Flash Wolves out, because the Sombra isn't going to do a lot until further in the second fight if Flash Wolves can even win the first. No, exactly. That's the timing for HQ.
But for what it's worth, that is exactly what they struggled to do on Oasis. And also, funnily enough, on Oasis, for the very first fight,
they won the first fight for Oasis.
It's a bit different on Control, because like it's not like Assault where, you know, you can win the first fight and then they don't have time for the second setup and then you just win that one and you win. Because the enemy team is going to get a chance to strike back. They are going to get a second fight no matter what, right? So that's not a window that Flash Wolves have in this situation. You're right, if they do opt into that Sombra, which I very much expect them to do.
It's like a 90% chance for me, I think.
Yeah, but that's kind of the only major window they have. From that point on, every single window is
less ideal. That's what Diva wishes her suit could be,
yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she like opens up eBay, looking at that, like
one day I'll afford this.
Yeah, looking at the price tag, like, oh man, when the Korean military pays me at last, like, yeah, and they stop paying me in Doritos and Mountain Dew. Hold on, I'm just gonna store a bit of this pizza in my mustache.
Yeah, please do that. And I think as well. Okay, so far we're not seeing the Sombra coming up because we are still seeing it. Even AHQ are going to bring this up, but the same rules apply. Flash Wolves have a specific timing that is right here in the first fight. You've got to be able to get past AHQ if you want an easy fight. And we've seen a lot of defenses fall over very quickly in that first fight because the Sombra just doesn't have the effect you want.
I'm going to be frank, based on what we've seen so far.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, Bob. I expect Flash Wolves to actually handle this very well, and well, there you have it. They've already picked off the Sombra.
That's exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just...
I expect them to handle this better than AHQ will handle a Sombra.
Yeah, this is the win condition for the attacking team straight away. Eddie Boss is going to get back in. Yeah, so Flash Wolves need to pick up a couple extras. If they start losing members now, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, Erican going down is going to signal exactly that. Even though they did pick up Bacon Jack, there's still plenty of positional advantage here for Flash Wolves, and now going up to contest this high ground where Dizzy is kind of stuck. Picking off Crappy was very big as well. I like that they focused him over Dizzy. Dizzy takes a dive. Point goes to Flash Wolves. I wouldn't even be surprised.
He's swimming back to the respawn room.
This has given Eddie Boss time to hack all of the health packs and get his ultimate up, so he should have it by the time Flash Wolves go for the second point, but that's really all they've got now out of the Sombra.
Exactly, and this is in terms of Sombra, you see the EMP is pretty much there, and Eddie Boss could have had that on the first checkpoint as well. But like I said earlier, even if he had got the EMP right at the end when he came back to respawn, I don't think it would have saved them. So timing-wise, Flash was executed perfectly. Now it's about AHQ looking for the EMP, they get it.
Oh, they do get it, but I don't know if they get enough for it. They got the picks, but...
3 kills plus suicide.
Yeah, well, hey, look, they'll take it, but... I don't know that that's necessarily going to start the snowball, because they lost Crappy, and they actually won the fight so quickly. They didn't actually get to charge up many ultimates. They got Erican. They'll probably get Lazy Titan and maybe Cowman in this next fight. They need to get another EMP up now.
Let me talk to you about timing again, because this is important.
Tell me all about it, Frank.
I will. I thought you said it was Bob and you're Frank. Anyway.
Well, no, because this time you're being Frank, so I'm Bob.
Flash Wolves needed to be able to get more personally for themselves in that attack as well, because as the fight started to progress, AHQ as a defensive team, although, look, you may have said they didn't get enough kills, they did get enough kills, in my opinion, to start the charge up on their own side. And now we're going to get into a stage where, look, EMP's almost up again, and they still got 2 ultimates.
They lost Crappy at the start. I don't know how well this goes for them. I mean, the tactical visor kind of forces AHQ's positioning here. It's forced Lazy Titan to commit off to the side. He does get a kill for it. Actually, is going to be able to get back into this mech. So never mind all that. It is
never
kind of
mind
gonna work
everything
out.
you just said in the last 20 seconds.
Yeah, I am not Frank. I am Bob this time. I am incorrect.
Right.
You be Frank.
Okay,
And,
so
yeah.
Assault, yeah, I understand it's extremely important to walk in as an attacker with an advantage. Specifically, if you're playing into EMP as well, you got to always factor in the EMP will kind of nullify that ultimate advantage for your team. Even if briefly, but that brief window is enough for the defensive team to sort of get themselves up there. And that initial defensive win for AHQ, again, was enough for them to get enough ults to then contest Flash Wolves. And Flash Wolves, while they have 5, AHQ have 4, plus the next EMP that should be coming up shortly. Flash Wolves, if they want to go, they should push now before the EMP comes up.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Flash Wolves were maybe a little bit too eager on the commit after picking Crappy. This time around, yeah, I like this. They're drawing AHQ out first, and oh my goodness, this is working. That's going to force the raise out of Crappy, but there's still plenty of time for Flash Wolves. Now they are the ones set up for this point as the Transcendence has come through. They pick Crappy again, even though the raise has already gone out. Lazy Titan gets nothing with the self-destruct. Erican has forced out the ultimate. He does get K-Momo. Actually, that's a good Dragon Blade out of Cowman. That could be all they need as he picks Zonda 2. Came up in the nick of time because that was on the ropes for AHQ.
Yeah, I don't think so, because Primal Rage is the one weapon for a defensive team that as the attackers, if you can't get around the primal range, you're just not going to get the cap in. Now, when we look at Assault specifically, I don't know if I can say this for basically any other map, but for Assault, because of the way the defensive spawns work, that primal rage will always guaranteed buy you an entire team respawn no matter what. So as long as you're holding onto something, yeah, look, the Dragon Blade coming out as well, you held onto something that will get you the return kills. And for Flash Wolves, they didn't keep enough members of themselves alive to really push out towards the end, specifically not against primal rage. Now's EMP again.
Changing tack once again here. They're forcing HQ out, but in a different position this time. They do lose Sinkler, but their own Dragon Blade getting a ton of mileage. They ought to be able to get a third out of this here as they barrel towards the point. Dizzy and Cowman will be able to come out of the point. Oh, but no, Dizzy getting trained down into this one. Now it's really just Cowman to contest. Like I said, should be able to secure a third. Has bought them time for the respawns, but it is Flash Wolves kind of set up. Slept on his own pulse bomb. That is, I mean, hoisted by his own petard. That is nasty. And that is no third for Flash Wolves.
And it's not. And Flash Wolves themselves are going to be running a Sombra, which very quickly gets taken down by Dizzy. So
yeah, hello.
I cannot believe I'm seeing this, but Sombra versus Sombra, like, really, is that going to happen? It's not. Flash Wolves are like, yeah, that wasn't really.
The hackers, I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you what it was. It was Sinkler trying to get back and reinforce his team quicker because obviously Sombra, extra movement speed and visibility, translocator gets you there quickly as well. So I get what they were trying to do, but ends up being a feed anyway. So Flash was definitely sitting on the back foot, and they got another Primal Rage to deal with. Like I said, Primal Rage is going to deny progress entirely.
I feel like AHQ would have wised up to this as well now. I don't think they're going to commit quite as hard and get drawn out quite so far as they have last few times. Even though Flash Wolves didn't get anything for it.
That's a delayed push now.
Yeah. Oh, man.
The good news is...
It's not even Cowman on the Tracer. That's Dizzy's Tracer. Dizzy can stick.
Well, I like that Dizzy's picking up the Tracer. One thing I noticed about Dizzy in terms of his potential is great on the Soldier, good on the McCree, but anything else has just been a bit lackluster. So the fact that Dizzy is picking up Tracer a lot more and getting more success out of it is something that's going to work for AHQ and get them out of this pigeonhole where they can only run 1 or 2 compositions. Maybe they can run more with this. So the important thing about that double pulse bomb kill from Dizzy is it allows Eddie Voss to get his EMP up, whereas previously he didn't have it in time, and if Flash Wolves had pushed during that timing, they would have been able to ignore the EMP, which would have been quite useful for them.
It also stopped them from being drawn out because they didn't have to go any further to commit to more kills. They could just kind of catch Flash Wolves on the retreat and, like you said, kind of charge their own ultimates. Good pick on the Dizzy, though, is going to open this one up, but they lose Sinkler. The EMP pulls a lot of mileage as Flash Wolves don't really have much to rely on here. No ultimates to swing the fight totally in their favor. They're going to have to go full commit here because they obviously feel they're running short on time, but K-Momo gets shut down mid-ultimate, and this is disastrous now for Flash Wolves.
Yeah, I don't think Flash Wolves can commit anything else here. They're going to have to take the losses where they
already committed too much.
They have, and this is the problem as well. Actually, the interesting thing to note is, as a team, attacking team playing against a Sombra, you can and will always have the choice to save ultimates because, hey look, EMP blocks your ultimates anyway, so you're likely not going to get to use them.
You can't even use them by accident.
So if you're the attacking team, you have a very safe place to just not use ultimates, and you should theoretically be able to eventually overcome a Sombra defense purely by having a massive ultimate advantage because, look, AHQ will always commit ultimates in this situation, but Flash Wolves are kind of still not as far ahead as they'd like to be here.
Yeah,
and against another EMP.
avenge the supports there as Sinclair picks off Dizzy to avenge Realman getting stuck. And again, Dizzy, this guy sticks, so let's see if Flash Wolves can kind of use that opening now as Realman has respawned, rejoined the team. But again, it's going to be a tall ask. AHQ are not falling prey to these same traps of getting drawn out into Flash Wolves territory first. Yeah, EMP out. Nothing committed.
This will be the last fight.
Yeah. This is no one going down during that one for Flash Wolves. Now they're going to be able to open up with their ultimates and a later sound barrier than what AHQ did. They've got everyone low, but they need to secure the kills. There they go. That's the ones they need. And this is going to be their last fight, but they're making it work. If they can get themselves well enough set up on this point, they can actually complete a hold here if they kind of stop the response for AHQ. They've already got Eddie Boss. That's a good way to start. Second, third. This is big for them. Looking to get the third. Now it's AHQ go to commit. Erican going down, and now they're going to be trickling on to the point. Numbers disadvantage. No ultimates to use for AHQ, and this should swing the way of Flash Wolves over the finish line at the last possible moment, but over the finish line is what counts, and Flash Wolves will pick up the second point.
I'm super impressed by the way Flash Wolves just sort of held positioning on the high ground, didn't give up, understood, look, we just got to survive the EMP, then we can recommit our own ultimates and then get the attack they wanted. AHQ, on the other hand, EMP committed, that's fine. So far, they've been able to get kills at EMP, but what happened right at the end there? Got no kills out of EMP, used all the other ultimates as well. Everything they had stored up in the bank, I mean, they spent it all, got nothing out of it. And Flash Wolves, I was going to say, during the middle of that, the best start so far they've ever had. Nullified EMP's effects by not really dying there. Nullified all the ultimates used from AHQ. And oh well, you still got a couple of ultimates left of your own. Bam, instantly 2 ticks in there straight away. The respawn is coming back, then clean them up as well, get your last tick, get the cap. It is an overtime, but they got it.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And like I said, way back on Oasis, this was one of the places we really got to see Flash Wolf showcase their adaptive play. And this time around, I will say AHQ did as well. They fell prey to some mistakes in kind of overcommitting to certain fights, and then learned from that, learned when they could and couldn't commit. And in the fights where they maybe overcommitted, they then saved it in other ways because Flash Wolves didn't quite capitalize as ideally. So then AHQ kind of picked up their play a little bit, but then Flash Wolves overcame that, right? Yeah. So they caught up and then they surpassed them, and that is that adaptive play just totally overcoming.
And I think it is, again, timing matters so much. It's such a buzzword for me so far, but you can see the effects of it because AHQ had the opportunity where they got to secure the kills in the EMP. Whether they commit ults or not, that's their choice, and they did anyway, and that makes it even worse. The fact that they committed ults plus the EMP and then didn't get the kills into Flash Wolves, I mean, I think that's what sealed the deal for AHQ on their final defense. Everything else they did prior to that was well executed.
I love the surfing. I love it.
I like that Lucio's joined in on the surfing as well, though.
I just like that they hold their poses while they're doing it. That's the best thing about it all.
You can hold sound barrier just like indefinitely up there until you want to use it. It's not as effective as the wind.
Oh, let's break it.
Sometimes
down. Oh, Sinclair not quite falling prey to what Flash Wolves did a moment ago, where they picked off the Sombra to start with. But
yeah, again, this is the most important push for AHQ. If they can get it in this push, they'll cap. If not, they'll struggle.
They are kind of putting on the pressure, well set up here, kind of forcing Flash Wolves off this high ground, but they've given Flash Wolves enough time to react now, actually, as the recommit comes in, as they try to force Dizzy off this high ground. It's man versus monkey, and what is it? I like this movie, War for the Planet of the Apes. I'm really looking forward to it. And
Sinclair's going to get EMP soon if they don't hurry.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Like I said, if they don't hurry up, and that's a really great hook to secure out Bacon Jack and K-Momo. That's a very nice opening now, AHQ. If they can get Dizzy wheeled around onto this low ground, they should be able to secure this one.
They can't be doing this slowly because, you know, Bacon Jack's already respawned here. Actually, most of the members that died have respawned, and the EMP finally comes out. Where's the kills?
Yeah, it is well reacted to. AHQ do try and scatter off a bit, but Zonda is Hunter Killer. Is not going to let them get off that easy. And yeah, AHQ a bit too slow to commit. They had it. They didn't go for it when they had that window, and then the window got slammed shut in their fingertips.
Absolutely. I mean, they needed to go before the EMP came up. They also got a kill plus a mech. That should, in theory, be enough for AHQ to really commit to a full-on fight there. I think they absolutely went a bit too slow.
Especially there, where you kind of have attacker's advantage. From that point on, you can trade blow for blow and still win.
You're at the point now where Flash Wolves will always be able to delay long enough to get the EMP up. So EMP is going to be a factor in every single fight, and they're even losing the fights before EMP comes up now.
Yeah, and oh, jeez, Bacon Jack, Bacon Jack, deep fried, man, that's what that was. That is the sizzling, crispy Bacon Jack I like. Whew, this guy does stick. right? Got crappy right off the top of that, and then went, you know what? I want more.
Look, I'm still waiting for my
That was the full BLT.
I'm still waiting for my opportunity to use the stick around line that Arnold Schwarzenegger used in Predator, so that'll come around soon.
Well, now you've kind of showed your hand already. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll wait till next week, then people will forget.
Yeah, that's how it works, right? In any case, yeah,
EMP online, this is now difficult. Like I said, EMP is going to take place at every stage of AHQ's attack now.
Yeah, I mean, this was what they kind of used to not shut down Triple Tank, but certainly give themselves the window to counter it back on Oasis. This is Flash Wolves in their comfort zone. They had to commit it kind of early, though. Erican, good work done by there, and that forces more ultimates out of Flash Wolves to deal with this Nano Visor, but it is going to run out without Dizzy finding too much. And Zonda striking back as he closes out on Dizzy, having already taken out Cowman. It is Flash Wolves territory. Like I said, though, HQ can trade blow for blow, and the attacker's advantage can kind of come into play for them here. That is what's starting to happen as Erican putting on his carry pants, or I don't even know if Reinhardt wears pants under that suit, but he's going to get forced back out of it, though. Could not quite swing the hammer onto Jongi, and this time, War for the Planet of the Apes falls the way of the Apes, and Flash Wolves do hold a little bit tighter than I think they would have liked, but convincing enough to be sure.
And this has been not Eric's night so far, I think. All of his
it was until it wasn't.
All of his Earth Shatters so far have just been somewhat lackluster, and all he got there was Game Over, and that's a bit unfortunate. What
Didn't even get Game Over out of the mech.
What HQ did do well is they played the EMP scenario really well. They shut down Zonda nice and early, but they haven't got a lot of time left to go, and unless they get some early picks here, Primal Rage as well is going to knock Dizzy around.
That was important, though. They did force it out of Jongi, but now Jongi has taken great advantage of it and has forced the rest of HQ into a bad spot now as Flash Wolves still sat on this point. Time is out for HQ as they lose Erican, and they're going to have to go bare, but didn't touch it. Oh, that is a harsh way to lose that one. First held and shut out. I thought this may actually go to Time Bank, but no, Flash Wolves have AHQ's number.
It should have gone to Time Bank if AHQ secured that initial push. Like I said, in terms of timing, that is when you are most likely to defeat a Sombra defense. Right in that very first attack, there's no EMP into play. There's no easy way to charge EMP either. You're not midway through the game. And ever since then, I mean, the opportunity for AHQ to climb back in just is incredibly difficult.
I don't blame you for ignoring that terrible timing joke completely. It's okay. I forgive you.
Yeah, so it's a 3-0 clean out for Flash Wolves.
Wow.
And
I feel like clean out was the word as well. Like, even back on Oasis where some maps were going to 99.
That was a 3-0 as well.
Like, even when it was going to 99-99, which it did a couple of times, I still feel like this was just Flash Wolves' night, right? Like I said, they had AHQ's number. And I said
it's their home day.
Woo, and I said it right at the top, not at the top of the night, right at the end of Oasis as well, right? It's not just that Flash Wolves are getting it over the finish line. They are doing so because they are denying AHQ from getting over the finish line. Doesn't matter how they're doing it, how they're winning in their own right. The important thing is they are stopping AHQ from winning consistently and effectively, and that is insurmountable.
What I'm going to give to AHQ here as a bit of a silver lining is I don't think they particularly played weak overall. I think there were some moments where they did look weak, and the moments they looked weak were Numbani defense, particularly cap 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And then first cap attack on Volskaya is where they looked weak. And not even super weak, it was just they didn't take advantage of a situation they were expected to win.
Yeah.
Whereas Numbani defense, it just didn't look like they were expected to win. Now, what AHQ did do very well that I was quite impressed with was Volskaya's second cap defense. There were many moments in there where they absolutely knew, look, we need to buy time for EMP here. Cool, send members die very aggressively, fight right at the front, fight right at the choke. Do not even allow Flash Wolves to sort of take ground yet. You want to take a really early fight. Cool, the EMP is in charge and ready to play. They committed. AHQ knew when they needed to be the ones to initiate and when they wanted to wait for Flash Wolves to sort of get in position first and then put the EMP play out there afterwards. So they played that situation quite well. They kind of dropped it right at the end there in the final fight, which again is unexpected. I expected them to win because positioning and just resource-wise, they had what was required, but just couldn't close it out. And I think couldn't close it out perfectly describes much of AHQ tonight.
Yeah, and I'm not even. I don't quite agree with you on that very last point there that they sort of failed to execute, strictly speaking, on Volskaya. I do feel like Flash Wolves just out-executed them. AHQ did have all the tools, and normally would look at that and say, yeah, no, they just didn't execute. But I also kind of want to give some credit there to Flash Wolves and shutting down the opportunity for AHQ to execute. And it's something I kind of touched on Flash Wolves throughout the night, is they denied AHQ a lot of the space they're used to having, and it's a lot of the space that's made AHQ look good. Now, in spite of that, they did still look very good. I would still say that this is an AHQ that could beat Blank if they were to play right now, and certainly can still beat the other teams in this tournament. But Flash Wolves have just shot right up tonight. When they prep, when they really put in the hard yards, that is what tonight has shown. They absolutely dominate. They dismantled AHQ.
I want to say that where Flash Wolves really won for me was, I like to say, in the preparation as well. They really showed they understood and studied AHQ quite well. Understood, look, this is what AHQ are going to do. This is what they do well. This is what they do not do well. And they understood what Flash Wolves as a team needed to perform and execute to sort of have the best advantage against AHQ possible. And I think AHQ did get caught out by that multiple times. But the reason I say AHQ failed to sort of get it across the line as well and failed to execute on multiple occasions was there were occasions where I expected them to be able to take it off. I expected them to be able to win. Now, a lot of that is based on, look, where are they in terms of the phase of the game? Are they ahead? Are they behind? Cool, they're ahead. What do they have? What should they be using? How should they be using that to get the win? They go for it. They get sort of all the steps right up until the last one where they just couldn't secure the kills, or just couldn't get the person they wanted, or couldn't get the positioning, force out the enemy team, or whatever it was right at the end. They couldn't get there, and that's what prevented them from taking any maps.
And again, like, I want to give a bit of credit over to Flash Wolves for that being the case, because it's this really subtle little thing that kept happening in there. And like I said, it's kind of a denial of space. It wasn't this total denial. It wasn't like, yeah, they completely shut out the Soldier ult every time. It's like the Soldier ult got off, and this thing happened, and that thing happened, and all those little steps happened, you're right. But at each juncture, I always felt like Flash Wolves were just denying, you know, an extra maybe 5%. That's just a throwaway number. But, you know, a little small, tiny thing that AHQ would normally have. And then when they did get to that final bit where you normally pushed over the line, they came up short. And that's just how that's going to happen.
When you need 100% to win and you're missing 5 of it,
exactly,
you're not going to win.
And even though that only came from little places at points along the way, it wasn't this total denial, it wasn't this total shutout, it was just little bits here and there that stopped AHQ from getting themselves over the line. That's why I say Flash Wolves was successful at stopping AHQ from getting over the line. It was less about getting over it themselves. And it was that denial. And it's a very... Yeah, it's a very tricky thing to even identify specific moments, because it was happening constantly throughout the entire game. And like I said, it wasn't these major things we normally see. It's not like, oh, Dizzy was carrying, so Flash will shut out Dizzy. It was much more subtle than that.
I want to be able to throw AHQ a line and basically say that I still think, despite the result, it was still definitely closer than what the score is.
Yeah.
Even on Oasis, I mean, multiple 99-99 overtimes. Definitely it was 3-0 on Oasis and then 3-0 in general. If you just look at that, you think, okay, HQ had a really bad night. They haven't had a fantastic night. Flash Wolves had a much better night. And at the end of the day, I think AHQ, you're probably right, AHQ still look like a team that could currently take on Blank, and I would be, like, if they did play, I'd say, look, this is still going to be a really good game. I don't think AHQ have really fallen behind so much as Flash Wolves have just said, look, we know what HQ are going to do, we figured them out, we know how to play against them, and the preparation for Flash Wolves in particular was the winning formula.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, in that closeness, right, at any given moment, a lot of the time, it was one win away for AHQ, one fight win away from taking the map, from, you know, taking the 3-0 themselves on Oasis,
even Numbani first defense.
Yeah, the fact that it didn't happen consistently is evidence of how consistent Flash Wolves were in doing exactly what I've just been saying. But you're completely right. If we recontextualize this in the wider sense in terms of this arms race, if you will, between these two teams, that's what AHQ have to go away and analyze, to go, how was it they were shutting us down? How do we deal with that? And they will, right? If anything,
also a player of the game.
Yeah, player of the game, man, Jongi. Totally deserved.
And it's again, probably the most impressive Winston of the entire OPC, of the whole tournament. Most consistent.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to fault the guy. I'd like to see where he goes into Reinhardt, but so far, Winston only. Yeah. We see the results.
I mean, in that series, I would almost call him a bit of an unsung hero because it wasn't like we were constantly going, whoa, Jongi, but I mean, we even saw there was a moment where he was kind of forced to ult, but still got tons of mileage out of it. That is just the sign of a good Winston.
And we'll hear what he sounds like because he is the person that's going to get the winner's interview.
Dulcet tones.
是战败的。那今天呢，以3-0的时候战胜了。那你觉得今天的战胜关键是什么？
So you lost AHQ before, you beat them 3-0 now. How you
团
feeling?
练的时候就一直在想怎么打 AHQ， 可是我们在团练的时候其实遇不太到什么平推的打法的战队，所以我们就是先把吃个阵打好，然后打平推的秘诀就是千万不要失误，然后不要想要太急着开战。那我们今天就是有做到很好的这样。
没错，今天打得非常
So
好，对
we
不对？
did study them. We did sort of really look at the way they play. Specifically, we wanted to see what they were going to do with their DPS as we played safely. We came out on
认
top.
为说你近期在比赛当中都进步得非常快，那你觉得你需要提升的是什么？目前？
我现在要提升的就是说，队友看我的，就是我站的位置，队友是会怎么样帮我会比较好，所以我是有在练一下输出跟辅助的角色，这样我就可以以他们的视角去看我自己的状况。
I'm really watching my positioning at the moment to make sure that my supports can always support me and have line of sight.
会庆祝吗？
我们今天好像是说要吃烤肉，不过前提是要2连胜嘛，因为今天主场日。不过感觉要喷一笔钱了。
好，那我想问说，今天结束之后嘛，你都会接下来就是会要跟粉丝们有一个活动，你有什么卖点要跟大家讲一下，一定要留下来的？
刚刚我们教练瑞已经穿了那个我们主场日的衣服出来，就是其实还蛮好看的样子。那我们主场日也有蛮多活动，然后等一下也应该也会跟大家拍照。那希望大家会跟我们一起，到活动结束为止。
大家会留下来吧？
谢谢大家。
那刚刚在后面那个一开始你们出场的时候，那个影片介绍自己的影片 ，NG 几次了？
我大概 NG 5-6次吧，因为开坦克好像很奇怪，但是我想不到什么更好的台词。
那你要不要摆一下那个海报的姿势，作为结尾？
I'll answer all the questions at the end of this.
可爱，掌声！
谢谢大家。
好，我们再次恭喜闪电狼赢得这场比赛。那下一场比赛呢，是由闪电狼迎战 M17。
What are you
那
guys
下一
going
场
to do
比
to
赛前，
celebrate
我
after
们
this?
会
They
在采
said
访区呢，
there's
与
going
闪
to
电狼的
be
成员们。
a dinner where they're going to have, specifically said we're going to have some meat. So what I'm trying to, maybe I think the translation there is essentially they're going to go out and have some steak or whatever, or have some grilled meat or something like that, which is kind of special over there. Also, something about they're going to be able to have a fan signing or a sort of fan meet that we're quite keen to have directly after they finish up. I guess when they finish up with Marchi after this. And right at the end there as well, talking a little bit about the poster that they had with all the poses and all the photo shoot and all the video stuff as well. Was a comment about Coach Ray's uniform. He's got a special black uniform that I don't know if people have sort of noticed there. That's a bit different to the other players. And Jongi was saying like yeah, he's looking pretty good in that. One of the questions was, you're going to see it on screen here. One of the questions was also, you know, how comfortable were you with the photo shoot and the video shoot? Did it take you a long time to get in there? He said, yeah, I needed about 5 or 6 takes to get my one done. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, that was just. What a nice interview. But also, I mean, a well-deserved win by Flash Wolves. I'll kind of tie a nice little ribbon on what I was just kind of touching on at the end there, because I think the key thing to take away there for AHQ is they will come back swinging. There's no doubt about that. And if anything, they may look at that and go, man, Flash Wolves just prepped way harder than us. We need to put the same amount of care into these top 3 teams. Now, I guarantee you they already are putting in a lot of prep behind the scenes, but this will be what spurs them to go that extra mile.
I don't think it's so much the quantity of prep. I think everyone's prepping the same amount. It's what you're getting out of the prep. And in this case, it's Flash Wolves specifically identifying what they need to do to beat AHQ.
Got way more out of their prep.
And maybe AHQ not quite getting the same distance with their prep, although prepping for the same amount of time, right?
Now, I suppose the only question, and we will actually get a bit of an answer to this fairly soon, is have Flash Wolves prepped for AHQ to the detriment of other prep? Now, I guarantee you they would have prepped for blank, but we're going to find this out in the next series against Machi, right? If they've maybe over-prepped for these other 2 top two teams. I don't think that they're just going to like out and out lose to Matchy, but I think they may end up having a shakier performance against Matchy than they have against AHQ, because it is extremely hard, especially when you're facing two top two teams and the 4th place team in a single week. It's really hard to prep for all of that in one go.
Yeah, I think Flash Wolves is starting to look, obviously they're off to a great start in terms of a revenge story. They got #1 off their list. This is like Kill Bill with only 2 targets.
Yeah.
They got #1, which is AHQ. They're looking for #2, which is now going to be Matchy straight after this, and we are going to be able to get into that fairly soon, as I guess the teams will be waiting to set up. We are going to be taking a I don't want to say short break, but we will be taking a break in between match 1 and match 2. So when we come back, Flash Wolves still in the home position will be taking on Matchy.